Hello everyone, welcome to our bonus episode for this week, and it is a character profile of one of my favourite current characters.
Is she?
Bernie Winter.
Is it? I didn't know whether to brand this as Bernie Winter or Bernie Winter-Alahan.
Oh, Bernie Winter-Alahan.
It really should be Bernie Winter-Alahan, shouldn't it? But I don't think she's quite known as that yet.
Is it how's she credited?
Yeah, she's credited as that.
We should call her that then.
Well, okay, but I think that most fans, if they talk about her, it's a bit of a Connor Swain situation as well, isn't it? And I know that some fans will definitely say she's Connor Swain now, and sometimes the dialogue in the show at the moment is kind of making it Mrs. Connor Swain in the factory, but it's Carly Connor. It's Carly Connor,
let's not get
isn't
into women and their surnames. It's a very fraught subject.
I know. Whatever she is, it is Winter. Winter is coming, and she's coming to this podcast for us to talk about her all this week. Gemma, you say that she's one of your favourites at the moment. Tell me more.
How could you not love her? She's so... that whole group of women, I love them.
Are you talking about Debbie's
Christina
pals?
and Debbie and Bernie. I just, yeah. There's so many really great, talented, wonderful, funny women on Coronation Street.
What is it about Bernie that makes her up there for you then?
She's just so down to earth, isn't she?
Just like one of us.
She's just like Northern. I just think I like the way that she's a bit rough around the edges. I think she's funny. She's got this really warm presence. She's very charismatic. She is unpredictable.
Yes.
I really like her relationship with Dev. I think it shows both of them in a good light, because I think both of them could have been quite prejudiced and snobby against the other one.
Well, I think Dev was at the beginning, wasn't he?
Yeah, but also Bernie the other way round. I think that Bernie, there's lots of people, working class people, who are super judgmental about anybody who is more well off than they are, or has money or something. They just... there's definitely that kind of, what's the word, rivalry.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of shows that both of them are willing to look beyond maybe the stereotypes that they've got, to see the person underneath. And it's very sweet, very nice relationship, and I think they both bring out some good elements of the other person.
Yeah, I really enjoy Bernie and Dev together at the moment. I think
any couple on Coronation Street could end up being an absolute disaster, depending on what happens.
Yeah, and I think even with Bernie and Dev, there are times when I think, oh no, they're not suited. Why did they put them together? Or, they'll fall out over various things. Or even like on the wedding day, they had the massive fallout last year, didn't they? And then you got, Bernie going off on the honeymoon on her own for 2 weeks or longer. And then, and what was going on with Mal earlier this year. I think Bernie, for me, I don't know whether I'd say she's a favourite. I do like her. And I like her a lot more than I did in the past. I think it was a long journey for me to accept and like Bernie. There was a lot of kind of wariness and hesitation about her character at first. It's difficult when you have a character that's quite... like you said, she's quite opinionated and forthright and a bit bolshy. It's very hard to come in as that type of character in Coronation Street, especially a woman of a certain age, and for the fans not to say, oh, it's just another Janice, oh, it's just another Scylla. Yeah. Even though Janice and Scylla are actually quite different, she kind of fits very easily into that same category, doesn't she? And I think...
she doesn't have that mean-spirited edge.
No, she doesn't. She absolutely doesn't. And I think that's one thing that sets her apart for the positive. Although, I quite enjoyed Janice and especially Scylla's nastiness as well to some extent. I think with Bernie, a little bit more often than I would like during the time that she's been on the show, I've found myself going, oh, Bernie, why'd you do that? Oh, Bernie, that's a stupid thing to do. You really screwed things up there, Bernie. Look what a mess you've made with that, And I've come to accept that that's what Bernie is like, but I can't help but I still had those feelings the first time she, I don't know, handled the stolen laptops during Paul's storyline, or...
Yeah, but I respect that because she comes from a different world. Like, it's all very well being sitting here and going, oh no, should be good in morals, and isn't it lovely, and should we all be kind to one another? But she comes from a world where you get screwed over and you got to, strike first.
Yeah, you got to be scrappy and
And it's not like...
fight for yourself.
It's, obviously everyone knows right from wrong, but there's a certain group of people that it's a lot more fluid. And it's like an in-group and an out-group, isn't it? Like when, I think, there are people who view society as all one group, that everyone should get along with each other, and that we're all kind of part of one community. And there are other people who only care about their specific group of people, and that anybody else is fair game.
Yeah.
And I think that Bernie has been in that situation where that has been more important to her. Like, her group is more important than the whole, right? And you're in a place of privilege if you can be in a situation where you're like, oh yeah, I should care about everybody. Because some people don't have the time or the money or, the energy to care anymore apart from their circle of people. Yeah,
well, looking at Bernie's history, for a lot of time in her life, her circle of people was herself, because she's another comparison to the Scylla kind of mould is that she was a pretty terrible mum to Gemma and Paul, and obviously she gave Kit up for adoption.
I know, but I feel really bad because it's always the women that get. What about the dads?
Well, yeah, exactly. Totally absent or abusers in the case of some of the dads in the story.
How come it's her fault?
No, I'm not saying it is.
No, I know. I'm not saying it's that, but it's not just that. It's she's reacting probably to the expectations.
Yeah.
And it's the weight of those expectations and the fact that there's no support because it's supposed to be your job as a woman, as the mother. Where's the help?
Yeah, I think what's helped me to enjoy and appreciate Bernie more over the past 3-4 years maybe is how I've come to accept that she just generally wants to do the best for the people that she's loyal to and close to, and she's got a good heart. She has every good intention, but sometimes will stray, or she'll be distracted by something, or fall by the wayside, and that's when she'll go out and have a bender. Yeah,
but this is like the morality of Bernie, isn't it? She's not beholden to some kind of fantasy, because it is a fantasy for a lot of people of the greater good or doing things for society as a whole. Because she's probably, you could spend your whole life playing by the rules and get screwed over.
She does what the crystals tell her, doesn't she?
I think Bernie's character is a logical response to being treated the way she probably was, being a working class woman with kids that she struggled to look after.
Yeah.
And no help and probably substance abuse and everything. It's kind of like Abby.
Yeah, she's
kind of like just Abby.
I would say she definitely feels real. There are definitely people like her out there, just with that little bit over the edge of I'm a character in a soap, so I'm going to go a little bit too far.
But the fact that she's into her crystals and her she's got her philosophy. She's not just she's not just a product of her surroundings. She thinks for herself. She's got her own ideas about life. She's sought something out that's different, makes a difference.
And she's very unapologetic about it as well. If we think back to the clashes that she had with Billy when Paul was dying, when Billy wanted to have a Christian funeral and she was wanting to wave crystals over him, and she didn't want to back down from that, did she? She's like, well, this is how I am, this is what I believe. When she had the rave after Paul's funeral, because that's what she
it was quite difficult.
That
was quite difficult, wasn't it? But everyone's got their own
so
belief system.
So I think that now is the time. Now we're a good few years into her tenure on Coronation Street for us to do this character profile. I can't actually believe that it's been 7 years. This is why we're doing it this week. This Friday, I think, is the 7-year anniversary of Bernie being in the show, and that blew my mind when I saw that. Did it you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
I don't know how long I would have said, but
can I just add that I think Bernie's anti-establishment.
Oh yeah.
Completely anti-establishment, and it's I think that's really endearing because it can be difficult if you're. I think they don't really show this. I think Coronation Street is really bad at showing actual working class people because quite a lot of them do cling to the establishment as a way of kind of protecting themselves. Lots of people. Maybe vote reform or conservative because they want to believe that they'll be protected by kind of the establishment who actually is not really that focused on their needs I'm trying to be fair here. I'm trying to be fair to everybody, but I think I really appreciate Bernie's complete rejection of the establishment, and she's clever enough to see through the kind of like smoke and mirrors and say, I think for myself and I decide what I believe, whether that's politically or spiritually or legally. Like I'm gonna steal some laptops. I'm gonna go to
I play by my own rule book.
Yeah, like the rules don't work for me, so I'm gonna make them up.
She reminds me in some ways of Auntie Pam, Molly's Auntie Pam, because she kind of did her own thing,
Ducker
didn't
and
she?
a diver.
She was a total ducker and a diver.
Ducker and divers on Coronation Street is so far and few between, but they probably are the blood of the street. I think Hilda and Stan were duckers and divers.
Yeah, well, even Jed Stone going back even further.
Yeah. I love those kind of characters.
Yeah, so anyway, 7 years.
7-year itch. Is that what we've got?
Well, I don't know. Maybe this podcast will be the time when we work that out for
ourselves. Or is it Lucky Sevens? Because I bet you that Bernie would agree with me when I say that 7 is a magical number.
She would totally agree with you on that.
7 colours in the rainbow, even though there's actually arguably not that many.
I don't know. I would have maybe said 5 years that she's been on the show, possibly. I would never have, because I've got this list of characters that we've never done for a profile, and I was like, well, you can't do it after the first few years necessarily. It's not long enough. And then it just blew my mind when I checked up how long we were having for Bernie. I was like, oh, she's definitely overdue.
But
she has done quite a fair bit actually. So
yeah, but to me, when I was looking through it, I was like, it feels like she's been around forever to me.
Oh really?
Yeah, she doesn't feel new. I was kind of surprised at how, at what stage during Gemma's life cycle of being on Coronation Street, at what stage she kind of appeared.
Yeah, that's true actually. How long has Gemma been in the show? I reckon probably it's fair to say that Bernie's been in the show for about half the time that Gemma has been, because she was she was like 2013, 2014 maybe. So maybe we've had more of Bernie and Gemma than we had Gemma on her own, which is crazy.
She first appeared in 2014.
14, right. So Gemma's been on the show for 12 years. So yeah, Bernie has been in the show for half of Gemma's tenure now. And
it feels like they work so well that I feel like they've been together the whole time.
But even so, Gemma was quite a different character when she first came into the show, didn't she? When we did the resident review of number 5 not long ago, so we spoke in great detail about that. But I think when we got to 2019, which is when Bernie came into it, they wanted to kind of mellow out and settle down Gemma a little bit. I mean, they probably had for a few years anyway, but she was settled with Chesney. That was the year that the quads were born as well. There was this mass expansion of the Winter clan in 2019.
It's crazy to me that she only appeared around the same time as the quads.
Yeah, it was just a bit before. But this was, I think, one of the things that people criticised Ian McLeod for in his early days, and saying that he was far too interested in getting the Winter Browns on our screen, and they weren't necessarily the most popular of families. But I think it's fair enough for a producer to say, well, who's working well? And I think Gemma was working well before then, and say, well, let's expand them, let's find out more about her, a bit more about her history, which we certainly have.
Well, especially with Jane Hazlegrove, because honestly, what a woman.
Oh, I know.
How could anyone... See, I think often we kind of really don't think about how much the casting is so important. But who could play Bernie but Jane Hazlegrove?
I've never really seen her in anything else, but before Coronation Street, she was well known for playing a character called Dixie in Casualty for... I don't think it was quite 10 years, it was, but there or thereabouts. So she was, to Casualty viewers, a very, very, very familiar face, and I don't know how much at all she was like her.
I don't know anything about this character, but the way that Jane Hazlegrove carries herself in...
She is 100% believable as Bernie.
Yeah, but also she's got this very calming, still presence that I think would probably work really well in a medical setting. I assume was she a nurse or a doctor?
Oh, I don't know.
I can assume, I kind of see her being a matron. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But she's got this really she's got this soothing, yeah, maybe. She's just got this soothing presence, hasn't she? Like, Bernie turns up and she's stolen stuff and, like, the pigs are about to knock the door down and she says, don't worry, it's all right. I'll be like, Bernie, you're right. It will be fine.
Yeah, yeah. She's not a panicker, is she?
She's not really.
Feels like she's got a plan.
She makes terrible decisions, though. She probably should worry more.
Well, she's a free spirit. This is what she was described as when the character was introduced to the world just before Bernie's debut in 2019. An old raver who still sees herself as a free spirit.
We haven't done a rundown.
Oh, no, we can get there in a second.
Okay.
And we were told that her appearance would ruffle feathers. I mean, you could say that about anybody.
I would love to see the producer that's got the guts to say, oh, this character will be introduced and will make no difference whatsoever, and
they'll be really bland.
You'll barely know they're there. We won't say any more.
Do you want to run down her vital statistics then?
She was born...
Inside leg measurement and all.
I don't know what it would be. She has a penchant for fake hair accessories, which I love for her.
Yes, but that's not one of her stats,
no,
is it?
But you told me, about her legs, so I thought I'd mention that. Born on the 18th of August in 1969. I think summer babies are more laid back.
Not like me.
Yeah, because you have nice parties.
Sunny parties.
Yeah. And also 1969. What a year. What a year to be born.
Apparently so.
Sibling Mike Winter.
Summer of 69.
Yeah. Married to Dev Alahan in 2025. She's got 3 children.
That we know of.
Paul Foreman, born in 1990, along with Gemma, same year. And then...
same day.
Kit Green, 1993. First appeared on the 24th of July 2019. She's been in 668 episodes, played by Jane Hazlegrove.
Yes. When her casting was announced, a spokesperson for the show said, like mother like daughter, we're very pleased that the fantastic Jane Hazlegrove has agreed to join the cast as the irrepressible and impossible Gemma's even more irrepressible and impossible mother. Fur will fly. Fair description.
I say Bernie would say fur is murder. But she'd also probably kill for her kids, so...
I don't know whether she would say fur. I mean, she does like a good kebab, doesn't she? But you can...
No, but she's she's an activist, isn't she?
Yeah, she's got... If there's a cause, she'll chain herself to the balcony for it.
Maybe.
I'm thrilled to be joining Coronation Street, said Jane, back in 2019. It's where I started my apprenticeship as a very young actor. More about that in a minute. I can't wait to get stuck in. She's not overly maternal. I think you could guess that from the way Gemma and Paul have turned out, and they left home as soon as they could.
I think she's got this Earth Mother... She's got this Earth Mother presence, right?
She'll just leave them on the doorstep and see if they could handle themselves.
But this Earth Mother kind of like calmness also comes with this kind of like laissez-faire attitude, like everything will be fine. Like I am the mother of all of Earth, so I can't be dealing with, the nitty-gritty of nappies and stuff. Everything will take care of itself. Nobody follows a fawn around and wipes its bum, Got to fend for themselves, these kids.
The press release also said that, or she said, parenting got in the way of her having a good time. So you can call her Earth Mother all you like, but actually, I think that she was more of an Earth Raver.
Yeah, but what's the difference?
Well...
The bounty of nature is such that you can get drugs from any plant. Just snort it and sniff it, isn't it?
Yeah. She said she loved her kids, but they weren't her priority, and feeding and caring for them would always have been a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that contradictory about being a raver and an Earth Mother and a...
No, I guess not.
And an environmentalist and a...
Yeah, she does what she wants. And I think that she did care. Yeah, she did care for her children. And I think in the years since she's been part of her life again, she's shown that, and she's fought for them, and she's been a bit, mama bear about it.
She's making up for lost time as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I can totally see how, like many mums, probably of the early 90s, who were also ravers, they just ended up totally neglecting their children because of it.
Say that.
Well, no, I mean, rave culture, drugs.
Raving and child rearing, just very much like being a boss bitch CEO, doesn't really go together. But then, sadly, society hasn't made very many things go well together with being a mum.
No, I can totally see, were Abby a little bit older, she could have gone down... She would have been doing exactly the same thing.
Sure
She'd have been best mates with Bernie in those 90s.
What the difference in age is, really, between the two. 15 years, maybe 20 years. I don't know.
I
don't know the ages of the actresses. The characters.
Abby's
are
supposed to be a lot younger
apart,
than Sally is, isn't she?
She
Sally
looks
Carman.
so young.
So yeah, I kind of alluded to the fact earlier that this was not Jane's first stint in Coronation Street, and she's actually the only actor to have played 2 regular parts in Coronation Street, which is nuts. Although Sue Clayton, who was the other character that she played back in 1985, also, I think we said the other week, has the honour of being the regular who's got the fewest number of appearances at only 27.
What does that mean to be a regular then?
Well, I think she was brought in as a regular, and had things gone better for them, for the Clayton family in the mid-80s when they appeared, they would have stayed on the show. You know, they brought them in, they gave them the house, they had a family together. It was not a contract that was originally going to be, you're 27 episodes and you're off. But yeah, you can be a regular and it does not turn out well. Because those were the days that if in Coronation Street a family or a character didn't work out, they get the axe, they get the push, which doesn't quite happen so much these days. So yes, if you've recognised Bernie when she came onto the show, this is why. And I'm trying to think, I don't really think we've seen anything of Sue Clayton, have we? Maybe like the odd episode, although that does turn out to be a fair proportion of them, considering there was only 27. If you've seen one, that's a good chunk.
She was about a doe-eyed ingenue in 1985 when she appeared as Sue Clayton.
Yes, yeah, it was literally 6 months, and then the family was out. And I think that as those 6 months, we saw very, very little of Sue. Jane has since said that we were brought in under one producer, and as soon as the new one arrived, we were kicked out. It was quite the shock.
Yes, I can really imagine.
Can you imagine getting a job in Coronation Street and thinking, I don't know whether young Jane would have thought that, because she was young, although not too young to not really get the gravitas of it. But if you think, I'm in Coronation Street, I'm set now, it just goes to show that you can't necessarily.
I don't know who thinks that anymore.
Not necessarily.
I think throughout the history, I think we're really. Anyone who thinks that the history of Coronation Street hasn't been one tenuous lurch from disaster to another from the start to now, I think they just don't know anything about the show, because literally it could have been cancelled at any point.
I know, it's true. I love this story that Jane said about when she did leave playing Sue. Everybody got her a card, all the cast got her a card, and Barbara Knox wrote in a message in it saying, "Good luck, Jane. Remember, rovers always return."
She was right.
She was right, see?
But she's not always
very
right.
Very prophetic. I think that she was looking into her crystals.
Don't come back.
Do you think that's Barbara Knox's stock message for all leaving cards? Do you think she still says that?
Nobody compare.
Jane says that Barbara had a massive impact on her when she was a child, and when she came back, she thought, "Oh my gosh, I don't think she's going to remember me," and then she made out she did, which was very gracious.
That was
apparently.
Really funny.
Yeah, I love that. It was a long time had passed, hadn't it? How do you feel about actors coming back? Like, if you had watched it then, do you think that you would have been narked by the fact that you couldn't get it out of your head that that's who that was?
No, I wouldn't remember.
Well, there's only been I think there's been 7 actors who've been in the show as regulars and then come back to the show, but the other 6 of them have come back as minor characters. In fact, I think 2 of the other Claytons came back since as playing one-off characters here and there.
Here's my question for you. What's more annoying to you as a viewer, because I know you get your knickers in a twist?
What?
That or characters being recast and having multiple actors for significant parts? Because I think Ryan Connor is one of the most recast.
Yeah,
he's the current character.
Oh yeah, and Nick of course as well. It's really it's difficult, isn't it?
There you go. Throw your question back at you. How do you like it?
I think that I've kind of started to take the stance in the past decade or so that if a recast does a good job, then I just get used to it. Some recasts, I'm still like, I don't know whether they should have done that, or I don't know whether they should have brought them back. Some of them just haven't worked, but largely Corrie's very good with recasts. I don't know. I'm thinking if there was a character that played look at Evelyn, all right? So she played a minor character in the early 2000s. She played Lillian Spencer, didn't she? Maureen Lipman did, and then she came back as Evelyn. And does that bother me? Not particularly. I think
No, I
it's
think
more
it's
just
funny.
I think it is. I think it's just a bit more funny, really.
I think it works better for the comic characters because it kind of breaks the fourth wall in a way that it's funny. I think that it's inherently funny, isn't it?
I don't think it would work if they had a character that was in it for longer than, a few years, and then they brought them back, particularly if they were a large one, Can
you imagine, like, in 20 years' time, Carla, Alison King comes back as, like, the woman who takes over from the corner shop for 6 months.
Exactly. Although, Carla Connor, again, wasn't Alison King's first role in Coronation Street. She played a randy housewife at one point, didn't she?
It's Fanshawe.
But, if you had, like the actress who played Martha Longhurst, if afterwards they said, sorry, we shouldn't have killed you off, should we? Do you want to just leave it a decade, then you can come back again? And, I don't know. Probably that wouldn't have worked, but I wonder whether Jane ever thought, well, I'd like to be in Coronation Street, but I can't be because I've already done it.
Or maybe she thought, I wonder if they'll ever bring back Sue Clayton.
Well, yeah, that's
I hope they do.
Well, that's a really good point.
Do you know what would be really
Campaigning to bring back Sue Clayton, and it turns out she's there as somebody else.
We talk about this later, but it would be so funny if they get Gabrielle Glaister to play Sue Clayton come back, even though she's already played
That would
Fern.
be hilarious.
That would just add the extra layer of weird meta commentary on the top of the whole Fern and Bernie.
Well, Andrea Clayton, who was Sue's mum, she was brought back around the millennium when Paul Clayton, one of Terry's other sons, needed an operation, and Andrea and I think the older sister, I can't even remember who it was now, came back in it when Vera had her kidneys out. I think that's what it was. I don't
think you take both of them out.
But anyway, I think one of those.
You take your kidneys out.
No, I think one of those Claytons was played by a different person then. So I think there's already been a bit of recasting in the Clayton family. So you never know. But yes, I do agree that having Gabrielle Glaister, who was later Fern, play Sue Clayton. But just
what would
the ultimate fourth wall breaking.
At that point, the universe would collapse upon itself.
There are plenty of other actors out there, Coronation.
No, but I would love it. Not the universe collapsing. But
or just have somebody come back from the mid-80s and recognise her and say, "Oh, aren't you?" You know, like how Steve recognised Chris Bisson in Corriedale this year, like getting Curly to come back or something and go, "Hang on a minute, do I recognise you?"
Do you think he'd come back to play Curly? I don't know if he would.
That would be the ultimate insult for Kevin Kennedy if they said, "We want to bring Curly back." Sorry, Kev, you're just not good enough for her. We don't want you back.
God. Imagine recasting Curly Watts. You'd have to be a sadist.
I know, you really, really would. Right, so let's have a rundown then, shall we, of Bernie's history and just remind ourselves, stroll down memory lane. And see what she's been getting up to these past 7 years. Well, starting off, as we always do, about life before she appeared on screen, and we know a surprisingly decent amount about what she got up to before she was on Coronation Street. She grew up on the Paul Robeson estate, which is dodgy estate of Weatherfields. Yeah, it's a scally estate, exactly. She was a twin herself. I forgot this until I was looking at this. She's got a brother called Mike. So
never been in it.
Never been in it. No, I don't know whether he is still around. He could be.
Gabrielle Glaister got a brother.
Yeah,
who's an actor.
Or she could just, she could put on a fake beard and a moustache.
Oh my, she's done it before, hasn't she?
Oh yeah, when she was Bob. When she was Bob off Blackadder, she played a man before.
Oh my God.
I don't know whether I really need to see Mike, but I think the fact that he's out there, this is a bit of a Jodie situation, isn't it? Where Jodie mentioned once that she had a brother, and then many years passed before he turned up, and people said, "You just made that up." No. It's been established.
It's canon.
He obviously doesn't care about them enough, for when Paul died or any other major life events for him to turn up. So let's just put him in the estranged camp for the moment, shall we?
Yep.
So she had twins in August 1990. The father was Denny Foreman, who we met a couple of years ago when he came back. He was a wrong 'un, wasn't he?
More summer babies. More summer babies.
Yeah. Apollo and Gemini. What's your thoughts on Bernie's penchant for astrological nomenclature?
Well, Apollo's nothing to do. Gemini and Zodiac.
I don't know whether there is I would have thought that Apollo feels like he should have a constellation at least.
Yeah, but
yeah, Gemini is a sign of the zodiac.
I'm going to say that this is just Coronation Street retconning their names.
But Gemma was named Gemini before Bernie turned up. So, but that was a retcon.
But they must have had like a meeting where they went, what normal names sound like they could be names that Bernie, and they said Paul sounds like Apollo.
I think it was a retrofit for Paul, but Gemma she was Gemma for a long time, and then she went off the show for a bit, and then she came back and applied for a job at the salon, and they said, oh, there's somebody who wants a job here called Gemini Winter, and then Gemma turned up.
Yes.
But it was a few years after that Bernie arrived, so
yes.
I wonder when they said, well, let's bring Gemma's mum into it,
and
they need to say, well, what sort of person would she be like? Well, she's the sort of person that names her daughter Gemini, and was that the little spark that was like, okay, question. Let's base her around the fact that she's not named her daughter Gemini?
That's a really good question. Also, did we know that Gemma was a twin when we found out?
No.
Right, so how annoyed would you be if you were a twin and your mum called you Twinny and your brother was called, like, Bob?
What?
Because her name is Twin. Gemini's the twin.
Oh, yeah.
Twin. So you're like, oh, this is Twinny, and this is the one who's the main one. This is the boy, so he's got his own name.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
This is accessory, and this is main. This is starter, and this is main course, or this is side dish.
Right.
That's what she should be called, side dish.
We know that Bernie was a bit of a lax mother during the early to mid 90s. Lots of partying, lots of drug taking. Never there when she needed to be.
Is it her fault that raves don't have a crash?
Well, yeah, exactly.
No.
Denny was a terrible parent as well. He ended up leaving after 2 years.
Yeah, see?
Where's what?
Where's the censure for him?
Well, he probably got fed up of her. I think they were from. I kind of get the impression that they were both strong personalities and would have wound each other up.
Denny went to America to found a chain of breakfast restaurants.
Oh, yes, of course, that's what happened, wasn't it? Yeah. So she split up with Denny, then she got drunk and slept with a stranger, got pregnant again, and this is where Kit came from, or to give him his birth name, Zodiac. Again,
imagine you're Gemma, and you've been called side dish, and then your brother gets called Master of the Universe, which is basically what Zodiac is to Gemini, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gemma can't catch a break here.
Well, Zodiac is the boy, isn't he? So maybe that means it's... I don't know. I didn't really like the fact that it was called Zodiac, to be honest, when they brought that in. Because it didn't feel like it... I mean, it doesn't feel like a name, really, does it?
It's not a name, and also, none of these names really go together. They're like...
Yeah, one's a star sign, one's the name of star signs, and one's like a Greek god.
Like somebody just thought, what would a crazy woman call her children?
Yeah. So Zodiac was born.
So we don't know who Kit's dad is.
No, we do not know who Kit's dad is.
So this is Kit, just a spoiler alert.
I said that already. She can't cope bringing up those three by herself. She has a breakdown and asks the social services to take Zodiac away. Eventually, as we know, he was adopted by the Green family, renamed Christopher. We'll park that for a little bit later until he comes back into it.
If you had this baby and it was called Zodiac, would you make any kind of attempt to preserve his name in any way? Like keep the Z and call him Zachary, or...
What, if I was the Greens?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of get the impression that they looked at that name and thought, that's a silly name. Let's not give them anything like that.
When you get a cat, like we got Abby and she was called Pebbles. And we're like, that's not a cat's name, is it? That's silly. But we didn't call her Penelope or anything. But if I had a baby, I think I'd want to make some kind of...
Well, baby doesn't know what his name is,
I don't think I'd want to rename a baby anyway, but also I don't think that I would keep a straight face if my baby was called Zodiac.
You'd be introducing him for the rest of your life. Said, it's not my name, I know it's my baby, but...
I think I'd call him Zach.
Yeah, they could have gone down that route, but they didn't. They called him Christopher. He's the person with the most names in the street, isn't he? Is he Zodiac, is he Christopher, is he Kit?
Three names.
I know.
Three names Kit, they call him.
So Bernie eventually regrets giving Kit up, and in 2007, so many years later, she tries to contact his adoptive mum, Amanda. This is what we saw in the flashback. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Jane Hazlegrove was the only actor who carried on the same role
Yeah.
and just youthified by putting a big long wig on.
Yep, you can do that as a woman.
Yeah.
It's really handy, actually.
It was funny that they did do that, because she didn't really quite look young enough, but equally,
How rude.
I think if they'd have got another actress to play her, and there was only 15 years difference or so, was it? You'd think, she doesn't look close enough. I don't know. But anyway, she tries to contact Amanda. She's in a total state. Amanda says, sod off. I'm not going to let you see him. No way. But I think Kit sees Bernie turning up, doesn't he? So he starts to go, oh, maybe she is interested in rekindling.
But he gets
something
rejected,
with me.
right?
Yeah. Because he grows up and tries to meet her, but she stands him up. She gets drunk and doesn't end up meeting him in this cafe where they'd arranged to meet up. And then she decides it's best to leave him alone. Bernie's parenting of Paul and Gemma was also pretty ropey. So when Paul became a bit too moody and difficult, as teenagers are wont to do, Bernie blamed him for driving away her boyfriend Cal Hinchley and threw him out. Unbeknownst to Bernie, of course, Cal was abusing Paul. Sad stuff.
He was a paedophile.
He was.
Very popular on
more on that
Coronation Street
later. More
at
on
the
that
moment,
later. Paul moves in with Denny, who abused him too. It's a wonder that Paul turned it into such a nice, well-rounded chap, really, isn't it?
I thought you were going to say it's a wonder that Denny's got time for this when he's founding an empire based on hash browns
I wasn't
and
going to say that.
scrambled
No.
eggs.
Paul turned into a really nice bloke, and it's just like the universe has said, I created you to have a terrible, terrible life, and you got yourself out of that rut. Well, MND.
This is why people get frustrated with the cycle of abuse. You know, concept of if you're abused, you become an abuser, because it's frustrating for people like Paul, characters like Paul.
Yes.
You know, who don't actually carry that on. But who knows why that happens? We don't know.
Yeah. I don't know whether we knew too much more about how Gemma and Paul ended up becoming so estranged from Bernie. But when Gemma first came into the show, when did you say, 2013, 2014? I don't think we were even questioned who her mum is. She was just one of these characters who was on her own, and she was a bit of a bad lass, wasn't she? And
yeah.
I don't think I ever thought, who could her parents be? But yeah, we find out that Gemma just reviewed her mum as being very selfish and unreliable and didn't need her, really. So, Gemma, do you want to take over what actually happened when Bernie came into the show?
Well, she hears that Gemma is pregnant
Right.
because they'd make an appeal, Gemma and Chesney, for
Money, please.
For donations, because they've got the quads and they need to prepare. So they go on the Radio Weatherfield, and Bernie hears about this and goes, ka-ching! So they arrange for a meeting at Chimney Pot Park.
The Red Wreck.
And Bernie, again, does not turn up, which is, par for the course at this point.
I quite like how they kind of made that part of her character, because this was the first time that we had any knowledge of who Bernie was, wasn't it? And then it was years later when Kit talked about arranging to meet Bernie once, and then she didn't...
They're like, that happened to me!
Yeah, she's just...
She doesn't turn up.
Is it that she's flaky, or is she just not got the confidence? She exudes confidence,
What's
doesn't
flakiness?
she? Well, is it she couldn't be bothered, or she was, too high on something?
I don't know.
Do you think that Bernie has a problem deep down with self-confidence and belief in herself?
I think she knows I think she feels incredible guilt for the way that she acted when they were children. And I think that I don't know, she's a fictional character, so you can say that she understands what she's done wrong, and it's kind of a symbol of growth that she actually is ashamed of herself.
Yeah, but she is still the character who will fall off the wagon, won't she? She can feel ashamed of herself and want to turn a leaf over a new leaf, but find it very difficult to actually stick to it. A bit like Abby, who's always fallen off the wagon for one reason or another.
Well, she's not done that for ages, to be fair.
It's true. Her heart's in the right place, and I think she probably with every good intention, agreed to meet up with Gemma and Paul, but then probably got a case of nerves, or like you said, the thought that,
but
no,
it's funny.
I don't deserve this happiness, I'm not good enough for this.
But it's funny, the perception of Abby and Bernie as kind of like failed mums, but nobody really thinks of Peter that way. He's just an alcoholic. Like, Peter's a failed father.
Oh yeah, he totally is. He was never there for Simon.
But he doesn't even make an effort. You know what I mean? Like, at least these women have like, or is that bad? Is that bad as well, that they, you know, society expects them to feel bad and have to make penitence, whereas it's okay because it ends up, you know, Peter's now wound up sailing the Mediterranean Sea with his kid that he nearly burned alive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's the same as Ken as well. Ken has spectacularly managed to avoid any kind of comeback, really, for not bringing up his children and thinking, single father, no way, ship him off to Scotland.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wonder whether if it had been a woman that we'd seen doing that, whether...
She never heard the end of it.
No. And I'm trying to think whether there are any other female characters in the history of Coronation Street who have... I suppose we had Faye Windass, who agreed for Miley to be brought up by the father's family, by the Jacksons.
But even she had a life was completed when she reconnected.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she was like, I can't be a mum now because I've entered early menopause. That could be an issue storyline. Or I could just wave a magic wand and be reunited.
Yeah.
Well. Okay, so she does eventually pitch back up again.
Yes.
She tells Gemma this tale about she's on the verge of eviction and she tries to take some of the donation money to help herself. And Chesney stops Gemma from giving it to them, but they still have to let her stay with them until she gets back on her feet. And she takes against Chesney. This is kind of reminds me of what Jenny was like, Daisy was like with Jenny and Johnny. Where she's like, I don't like this, I want them to split up. She's trying to break Chesney and Gemma up. She makes all these weird comments and walks around the house naked.
I thought that was weird. I think this is one of the reasons why I struggled to take to Bernie at the beginning.
I don't remember
just
why.
Walking around the house naked and going, what is that? What are we supposed to? Is this supposed to be fun? I didn't find it that funny. I just thought it was a bit weird and annoying. Some of her behaviours at the beginning. Looking back now, it's like, I guess that's kind of Bernie-ish. But then I don't know whether would modern Bernie walk around naked. She probably would. That's probably what she was doing at Stonehenge for all those weeks last year, wasn't she? Parading around in the buff.
I wouldn't be surprised. So she also steals the Japanese wishing tree from Victoria Garden.
Yeah, in that first summer, they kind of threw a lot at her to say, look how out there she is. She stole the tree from the Victoria Gardens, and the biggest story of the summer that really made viewers struggle to take her to their hearts was when she got into a scam of selling Gemma's Wii online. Do you remember that?
Yeah, she's got positive pregnancy test Wii, and she also runs a fake charity collection to pay off a parking fine.
Yeah, I mean, it is very Auntie Pam, isn't it?
Well, it's also a bit Sillery. You know, like, I've got cancer, give me some money.
Yeah, it's not a million miles away from that. But I think that just have there being a story in 2019 of Wii being sold over the internet, I think it really didn't go down well with viewers. And I think the character of Bernie ended up taking a lot of flack being the face of this.
Oh, it wasn't that big of a deal.
I think it was. Oh. I remember people at the time going, "What, Corrie, what on earth are you doing?" And I don't think that she's particularly done so out there things like that since.
I thought it was funny. Didn't she have a bucket of it?
Probably.
I thought it was not supposed to be serious. But anyway.
Well, no, it wasn't. But I think it was just, it kind of grossed out the viewers a little bit too much.
If only they could see to the future. So she gets caught in September shoplifting, but she finds out that the security guard is none other than her old boyfriend, Cal Hinchley. And she really misses him. She's so excited to see him again. And she rekindles their relationship. But Paul reacts very badly and attacks Cal. And Cal says, look, sorry, it was my fault. I said something rude about gay people and he didn't like it. And so she kind of wants them to get along with each other. And she has got no idea what the underlying tension is between the two of them.
Yeah, which we later
find out. So in October, best month to get born, the quads, Alan, Bryn, Caris and Chio.
I've been thinking about that recently because you kind of made a comment on the fact that I was calling her Chio a few weeks ago, and I was thinking, you know Steve's mate who worked on the taxis before Tim. I never called him Lloyd, did I? So.
But Lloyd is a name. He's not. Is that how you spell Lloyd in Welsh?
I think so. I think it's
is it?
Well, yes, it's a double L, isn't it?
We have to wait till Chio is of age to tell us how she wants
to be pronounced. It's also, of course, the Grand High Sheriff of Manchester, Mark Llewellyn.
It's tricky. I don't want to erase anyone's heritage. But I'm also going to say that being born on a cable lift doesn't make you Welsh. So they get born in a cable lift in Wales, and Bernie is very excited to have not just 4 grandchildren, but a possible future son-in-law in Chesney when they get engaged.
Well, this is Bernie's chance to try again. She totally screwed up her own children's upbringing, didn't she? And she knows that she's a failure as a mother, and like you said, she's probably very guilty about it.
Very judgmental, Michael.
I'm not. She's just saying how she judged herself. and I would say that on the whole, Bernie has been a fantastic grandmum, hasn't she? I think she's been a fun grandparent. And yeah, you've had Granny Linda being the one to splash the cash around, but she's been very absent. And I would say that the quads have really appreciated everything that Bernie has brought into their life. And I think Bernie would say that she feels very fulfilled at the good job that she's done so far with the quads, don't you think?
I reckon so.
Okay.
So she gets a job at St Mary's cleaning, but then she gets accused of using the parishioners' personal information to burgle their homes. And it wasn't her what done it, but she thinks it might have been Cal. So she and Gemma search his flat and they find not just Daniel's stolen laptop, but also some photographs of naked boys, including pictures of Paul. And then this is when Paul reveals that he was groomed and abused by Kel as a teenager. And Bernie is devastated at this because I think she always knew she was a bad mum, but she never realised that she let a predator into her life. And of course no one could ever know.
This kind of in some way,
like how she shouldn't blame herself, but perhaps she could have been a bit more vigilant.
Well, yeah, it's, what Bernie's feeling then is just the same as what Maggie and Ben and Eva, I guess, have been feeling in the Will story.
Maybe, hang on, yeah. If at the same time they were doing drugs and going raving and not coming home and...
Oh, yeah, so Bernie has got that extra, well, this is why I didn't spot it, because I was off my head.
It's not her fault, but it's a reason that it might have been overlooked.
It's interesting comparing...
And again, fictional characters.
Interesting comparing this kind of introductory year to Bernie to the Driscolls, because, you know, with both characters, I've felt at points... Oh, this is a bit of a dark story for them to be getting into. I thought they were supposed to be a bit of a fun character, or supposed to be a bit of a fun family. And, you know, you got the Driscolls getting through this grooming storyline, Bernie as well. And it's like, not allowed to have fun with this character anymore. They're doing serious storylines, you know? Sometimes I feel like they should just not drop you into the darkness straight away. And it was a bit of an interesting move that they did that to Bernie. It was, 6 months into her time on Coronation Street.
Crazy how soon it was. I felt like I knew Bernie really quickly.
I think at the time I was a bit disappointed that this fun character was being embroiled in something quite so mucky. But I mean, all of the actors involved certainly did a good job with it, and it was also, it didn't go on for too long either, did it? It was 3-4 months maybe, and then it was over. And then Kel ended up in a canal.
Yeah, canal. I think it was one of these issues-based storylines that Corrie did that they didn't properly develop, because it turned into like a vigilante kind of story, didn't it?
It got a bit in the end, yeah.
So Bernie's devastated. She kicks Kel out, and she realises that in the past, when her relationship with Kel broke down, she blamed Paul, and she kicked Paul out. So she reports Kel to the police, They don't find any evidence. So she does this online campaign against him, and she confronts him where he works and says to everybody that what he did. And she also sets up a sting operation, which is like these paedophile hunters you get on the internet, and poses online as a boy who wants DJ lessons.
Oh yeah, he was a DJ teacher, wasn't he?
Do you know what? Coronation Street
Odd.
has got a like, what is it? 2/3 of a strikeout on DJs.
What do you mean?
Because you got Ryan, who's good.
He's a good DJ, yes.
But he's also a bit of a slapdash, lackadaisical man at times. He's come into his own recently, but we can't forget that, you know, he was a bit of a...
Well, especially when he was played by Saul Harris, who was a right character there.
And then you've got Jeff, and you've got Cal. So a pedo and an abuser, and just a lazy boy.
Yeah, Corrie's got something against DJs, clearly.
Which Corrie writer was dumped by a DJ? Well, there you go. What do you reckon of that year of her first?
Yeah, no, like I said, very, very mixed. I found it really difficult to properly warm to her. I think probably this Cal storyline, as difficult as it was to throw this character who was supposed to be a bit of fun into a dark story, it did show that Coronation Street wanted to develop her, and they didn't just want her to be comic relief. They wanted her to be well-rounded, and she did come out of that, you know, fairly well, didn't she?
Yeah, I think, you know, Jane Hazlegrove, she can do it all.
I think... Had they wanted her, because they could have very much gone down the path of, Gemma, she's just a side character, she's just a bit of comic relief, she's not a
side ditch.
She's not a character that we want to develop too much. We want to have her as kind of the gross out, you know, kind of person. Mm-hmm. And they could have done that with Gemma, as always with Bernie, couldn't they? But this was, to me, the first indication, no, she is actually going to be a long-term character that we want to properly invest in.
I love both these actors, and it's not pitting them against each other because they are doing incredible jobs with their characters. But I'm going to say that I think Bernie is a more successful, well-rounded character than Gemma is at the moment. And
for sure.
Put that down mostly to the quads.
What do you mean?
It's just really hard to write a character who's a mum on Corrie. They don't do a very good job. I think they did a really good job in the early years when they had... Deirdre and Gail. I thought that they did a good job of making them seem like mums.
They were mums who could get up to other things as well, couldn't they?
I think in Corrie, it's like you're either a mum or you're doing something else and your kids are somewhere else. I don't think there's a story where a mum does something.
I know what you mean.
I think it's really hard to explain what I mean, but like it's a mum does X in spite of children, or a mum does X because of children. And there's no mum does X and she also has children. It's always, you know, and it's partly to do with the fact that the way they film things and the laws, you know, you can't just make children work down the mines anymore.
It's also that back in the 70s and 80s, when these characters were being mums successfully and having storylines of their own, the types of storylines they were having were a lot more gentle, and you could have your kids tone along with you while you were having your massive storyline about bringing your library books back late, but you can't do it quite so much when you're going off doing your murder spree. Yeah,
Gail realises the she's run out of milk storyline.
But yeah, I think that they've wanted to do, if you kind of compare what they've done with Bernie in the last 7 years to what they've done with Gemma's been at home, she's been a mum, she's had money woes, she's got married.
She's learned sign language.
But Bernie they've clearly wanted to take off in a lot more different directions. And partly it is because she hasn't had things tying her down that have said, well, obviously she couldn't do that because...
so sad that women who become mothers get turned into anonymous, you know, placeholders.
I'm worried about what's going to happen to Shona in the next few years now. With Harper imminently coming home.
And then people go, why is the birth rate so low? Mate, I don't know. Coronation Street did it. Can't choke each other anymore.
I don't want to be a minor character in life.
No. It's hard. You can't have children, you know, and it's like, just an afterthought. Of course you can't.
Yeah.
But Coronation Street could do a much better job of making it feel more part of your life when you become a parent.
Yeah. Anyway, we
know,
digress somewhat.
I don't think it's really. It's really. This is why, again, I think that middle-aged women on Corrie come into their own a bit more because their children are older.
Yeah.
It's not because women of a younger age don't have interesting lives and stories to tell. It's because they can't do it. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Right, 2020, the year where it all went wrong. For the universe, that is, not for Bernie.
No, I think the universe is fine no matter what happens.
So, this is when we saw this sting operation, I think, with Bernie turning up on the Red Wreck to try and catfish Kel, who true to form, had brought along his lager and his condoms, which are apparently the paedophiles' fishing lures of choice.
Have you not seen that Chris Hansen?
Who?
You not know who Chris Hansen is?
No.
I said Fred Durst the other day, and I didn't mean Fred Durst. I meant Robert Durst.
Yeah, Fred Durst is somebody off of Limp Bizkit, isn't he? I was going to say that in the episode, but I didn't want to say it and look stupid.
You were scared of me, weren't you?
No.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Chris Hansen. He's the guy that did the where they would do on TV the paedophile, where he'd be like, take a seat. Why have you brought the pizza and condoms to meet a 12-year-old girl?
Also, it's a bit like Beatles About, but for paedophiles.
It's exactly the same thing.
Just imagine Jeremy Beadle popping out there and going, oh, Jimmy Savile, what are you doing here?
What a coincidence.
Anyway, but as I say, we're digressing.
We are a bit. There was no need to bring up Jimmy Savile and in a Bernie.
If there's going to be a
podcast
storyline about paedophiles, you can't tell who's going to pop up into conversation, can you?
There's all kinds of.
Anyway, that's basically the end of Cal.
There's all kinds of pedos around.
That's the end of Cal, and that was another thing where I remember watching her going, "Oh no, Bernie, don't do that." I vividly remember going, "Oh, why you?" She just wears her heart on her sleeve, doesn't she? And she doesn't need somebody else to solve her problems for her. She thinks she can do them herself. However, kind of many.
Yeah, but this is because she's a woman who's never had anybody back her up. Like the rules of life don't apply necessarily.
She's not one to trust the police, I suppose.
She's self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's not a joke. I genuinely think that there are lots of people like this, and they solve their problems themselves because the authorities don't listen to them or take them seriously.
Well,
and this did happen because she tried to do it the right way. And they didn't find anything.
Didn't find anything, so she took it into her own hands, and then ended up getting the house set on fire, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because vigilantes then pour petrol through the letterbox because of Cal having lived there or something. I can't remember. And number 5 set on fire, and the quads are in danger, and it's all very dramatic.
We could have lost a few quads and it'd be fine.
It'd have been alright, wouldn't it? Yeah. Anyway, Bernie realises she's gone too far, leaves the family home, and agrees to drop this anti-Cal campaign. But we don't see him again, do we? Because he turns up dead later in the year in the canal.
What happened there? I know it happened, but did we ever find out whether he was pushed?
I don't think he was.
By the Manchester pusher?
I don't think he did fall foul of the Weatherfield pusher, no. I think he just was... I can't remember what the storyline was, why they were dredging canals. It wasn't anything to do with Uncle Stephen and his wanting to put people in canals. There was a reason why I think just Paul and Billy were...
body dredging.
We're saying, who could be in a canal at the moment?
It's
and
probably
it turned out that it was Cal, yeah.
Because they heard we were going to do our soap walk in a few years, and they were like, we've got to start now on the maintenance of the canals.
Bernie comes back in March, a couple of months later, realises that Gemma's struggling badly with the quads, and there's one scene where Gemma accidentally locks herself outside the house with the baby still inside, so Bernie bravely breaks a window to get inside, and covers for her on the condition that Gemma seeks help for her postnatal depression.
But then,
oh dear,
what happens there?
Issues story. What does happen there?
Bertie takes her drugs.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it?
You can't do anything right when you're a mum on Coronation Street.
No. We see Bernie starting to integrate herself more onto the street this year because she starts working at Prima Donna for a bit. She takes over some of Chesney's shifts, and eventually she works there for a bit, doesn't she? And then the shop comes a bit later that year as well, I think. She is. I'm just trying to think now. The shop is her main job, right? We see her working behind the counter there. Sometimes at Roy's as well. She's kind of been a bit all over, hasn't she? As long as she's behind a counter, she feels kind of at home.
It seems that way. I would like more. The thing is about Corrie characters is that you have to have them work in a business to interact with other people. But she totally seems like the sort of person who would be an Etsy witch.
Yeah.
Or make jewellery that she sells at the market.
That, I mean, it's not off the table for a future storyline. I'm going to tell you that.
I had somebody paid an Etsy witch to curse Argentina in the World Cup.
That worked.
At the end it did, but not for us.
No, we were the casualty along the way, weren't we? Bernie also takes up metal detecting for a spell, mid-2020. She goes to Beacon Woods with Brian and nearly uncovers Rick Neelan's dead body there. She finds the watch, but yeah, almost uncovers him there. She sells the watch to Sarah, who realises its significance, but chooses to protect Gary, and that's why Sarah Louise knows that Gary killed Rick Neelan, because she realised that this watch that Bernie found belonged to him.
I really hope that this connection comes up.
Oh, what with
Theo's murder? With
Sarah currently answering to the police. Yeah, she's got some dirt over Gary for sure. She really, really has. Yeah, and there wasn't a whole lot of Bernie in 2020. I think she had a big push in the first year, and there were lots of characters there weren't a whole lot of in 2020 for obvious reasons. But yeah, at the end of the year, we find out that Kel's body has been pulled out of Weatherfield Canal. But yeah, no suspicious circumstances, and that's the end of him. So again, don't be a villain on Coronation Street.
Maybe he was trying to beat up a Canadian goose. A Canada goose.
Quite possibly, Gemma. Quite possibly.
Wow.
So Jane Hazlegrove, at that point in the year, I've been finding other interview quotes from her, and then she says that the intention was that I was always going to come in and be the most loathed woman in Weatherfield, which is absolutely fine by me. Bernie's completely out there, there's nothing boring about her, and that's great. If I get up people's noses, bring it on. But she's definitely softening. She's had to take a long, hard look at the mistakes she's made, and now it's time to rectify those. Most loathed woman in Weatherfield, Gemma. Do you think that they were successful in that? Because even though I was saying I wasn't like the world's biggest Bernie fan at the beginning, I wouldn't say it was I can't stand this woman.
I don't know. I really like Bernie. I don't know when I would... It's really interesting because I think quite a lot of the time when you like a character, you believe you like them from the beginning.
But do you not think you did that?
I don't remember. I wish somebody would tell me.
I think if you were going for most loathed woman, you would make her a little bit more obnoxious and repulsive and purposefully stirring. And I don't think Bernie was that.
I think you forget the casual hatred with which some people regard anyone who's slightly different from them.
I guess so. I mean, she says that if she gets at people's noses,
also,
then bring it on. And I think she did get at my nose, to be fair.
Being a bad mum is the worst crime in the world.
Yes.
So, and
surprised there's so many of them on Corrie.
Very judgmental against characters like Bernie.
I just think it was interesting that by the end of 2020, so she'd only been in the show a year and a half, that Jane recognised that the character was softening, which is often the case, isn't it? You kind of bring them in kind of brash and loud and then give them a little bit, sort of sand off those edges.
Oh, it's classic.
Yeah. Right, so do you want to remind us about 2021?
Well, Bernie accidentally spills some salad dressing in the corner shop.
Oh my gosh.
And Evelyn slips on it and injures her ankle and exaggerates how bad it is. Then starts blackmailing Bernie and Dev into running around after her and looking after her, saying she's going to sue him.
Comedy storyline to start the year.
Yes.
So they had the darkness of the pedo storyline, and this is,
about workplace safety. So Bernie eventually catches Evelyn being completely fine and exposes her. Before she exposes her, she gets her own back by making it look like Cerberus likes her more than Evelyn, because she puts dog treats in her pocket.
Oh yeah.
Bit mean and unnecessary. In June, Bernie takes Dev on some fake dates because Arnie's making fun of him for his lack of a love life.
Right, so this is 2 years into Bernie's time on the street, and finally Dev gets into the picture. Yeah. And this is another relationship that I think lots of people, again me included, I can't speak for you, were quite wary of at the beginning. sometimes with soap characters, you think, well, of course they're suited to each other. It makes sense. And then other times it's like, why on earth? And I think this was definitely it for these two. Now, I do love Bernie and Dev together now, but it has taken a long time for me to really get them.
I think I was more enthusiastic than you were. I'm pretty sure.
I think sometimes, I don't know, I wonder whether the writers, behind the scenes people always know that something's going to work, or whether they sometimes put them together to say, hey, let's see if we can make it work. Let's see if we can come up with a reason why those two would be interested in each other.
So, despite everyone thinking they weren't made for each other, they have a really good time and end up sleeping together. And Bernie's like really shocked that he's into her, but then she gets upset because Mary tells her that Dev was making horrible comments about the way she looks.
Dev has definitely not been out with a character like Bernie before, has he?
No.
He's much more accustomed to younger women than him, glamorous or
explosive, manipulative, flammable.
Maya was just like this ultimate dangerous, sexy risk kind of move for Dev, wasn't she? And although Bernie is definitely a bit of a risk because you don't know what she's going to do next, she doesn't have in any way the glamour that his other conquest did. No. I mean, not that I suppose Sunita didn't have glamour either, but she was very kind of young and beautiful. And I think when she started going out with Dev felt like he was almost looking after her in a way because she'd been abandoned by her parents after she ran away from the arranged marriage. But Bernie, younger Dev, would have never taken up with somebody like that because he would have just seen her as a bit of rough. And she's way more self-sufficient than some of his other girlfriends. Yeah, I mean, Sunita sort of grew up a little bit and got a little bit more independent herself. But I think it is another thing. This was kind of the era where you and I think, were warming to Dev a lot more. And it's not like we didn't used to like Dev, but it was around about this period, Asher and Adi were starting to have some bigger storylines. We were just like lapping up anything that was Dev related and seeing him realise or kind of humble himself. I don't mean that as a slight against Bernie, but going out with somebody that originally he wouldn't have thought he would, it was all good for him. It's
a really good lesson for everybody to not be shallow and base everything on the ways people look. And the thing about Bernie is that she is actually beautiful, and she's got a gorgeous face, and she's got great cheekbones.
Good chakra.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think, I think it, like I said before, I think it is a good judge of character on both of their parts that they are together, because I think it's shown growth in their characters, because Dev was always a shallow guy who cared about the way appearances of things, and not just what his girlfriends looked like, but the appearance of being a businessman. And
it was his own appearance. He was a Lothario, and he knew that he was kind of very suave and
being a ladies' man and winning people over. And also Bernie being anti-establishment, he represents everything she hates, like capitalism and business people and like flashy cars. And
to Bernie, Dev would be like the ultimate show off. But I think that with age for Dev came a loss of natural. He wasn't the most gorgeous man in Weatherfield anymore, was he?
No. What are you trying? I think maturity of realising that appearances aren't everything.
Yeah, there was that as well.
You're saying he does not as good looking as he used to be, so he's got to get what he can get.
No.
Yes, you are.
I would say he used to be able to probably walk into a bar and say, "Hey," and anyone would come to him.
That's true.
And I think that these days, people would think, "All right, Grandad."
Michael.
What?
You just undid everything good that we just said.
Oh, well, it was you that said it. It's fine.
Oh, okay. You can undo everything I say. Dev, I think you're talking about the fantasy life that Dev lived in his head. There's no world in which Dev walked into a bar and went, "Hey, ladies," and they all went, oh, my pants are wet. That's not how it worked. He was always a bit of a joke.
I suppose so. He was a bit of a... But, he still was able to charm the pants off, or we're just seeing on ITV3 at the moment, Tara Mandel, who was, again, a younger, more beautiful woman than him. I think he had the lines, didn't he? He had the cash, and he would rely on that to get him whatever he wanted.
See, this
and
is
I
what I
think
mean.
as he grew older, he realised, well...
As all those things disappear, and as the women who are interested in that, as he ages out of being, them being interested in him, he has to rely on his personality, which he hasn't really worked very hard on. But Bernie has seen beyond that blustering exterior of a materialistic guy who's only ever cared about status, and she sees who Dev is inside, which is a really kind and lovely family man.
Well, he's also a bit of a goofball, isn't he?
He makes fun. He's a silly, jokey man.
He's a bit of a free soul himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
And
really...
I think that meshes well with Bernie's free-spiritedness.
I don't know what Dev's background is as far as religion goes. I don't think he's particularly religious at all, and I don't know what it's like to be a Hindu growing up in the UK. But I can imagine that quite a lot of his blustering, commercialism was probably a kind of rejection of his, perhaps maybe his parents were more spiritual. I don't know.
I don't know.
We can make a lot of generalisations about why he was so materialistic.
But it's also, this generation of immigrants who ended up running corner shops. You can't run away from that there are a lot of people from immigrant families from India who ended up running shops. But so it wasn't necessarily always a materialism thing. It was lots of his family probably were shopkeepers.
Right, but what I'm saying is he's put a lot of stock into making money.
Yeah. And
being successful and being a business guy.
Yeah.
And now Bernie's showing him the more spiritual side of life.
Yeah.
And being in family, and he realised from when his twins were growing up that family is more important than status and cars and being successful, in inverted commas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. But Jane, I think it was last year. I
would like to know more about how Dev's what his life was like, and how he was brought up, and why he was was he like a businessman because his parents told him that was the way to be, or was he rejecting what they were saying and becoming a businessman? Because I think because he's a fictional character, he's not a real person. It's going to be one of those two extremes, right?
I get the impression from Dev that he comes from a family of people who have got this whole... Dev
ambition?
had his... ambitious, but into corner shop. We knew about, Uncle Ravi, Uncle Umed.
Okay, but not corner shop, business ownership.
Yeah, but a lot of the family that we know of were involved in shops.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying corner shops. What I'm saying is that was the way they expressed their business...
Right.
ambition.
Yeah. Coming to
immigrating to
the UK and saying, well, I'm going to take advantage of this, not in a bad way, but I'm going to show what I can do, and I'm going to, I'm
going to succeed in life, and I'm going to make more of my life, and it's really important.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at it through that lens, I guess, of financial success and status is really important, because it proves that we've raised you well, and we've set you up as in our family as being successful. Look at Auntie Rani.
What? From last year, yeah.
Yeah, she was clearly obsessed with status. If that's kind of the indication of what Dev's family is like, Bernie's helped him move beyond that kind of materialism.
Yeah, but it's interesting now that Bernie is married to Dev. I wonder... will she kind of lose the part of her that was anti-establishment, anti-materialism? Is she enjoying the life that's come with moving into number 7 Coronation Street, which is on the terrace side at least, the most modern house on the street in terms of when it was built, because obviously it was rebuilt in the early 80s. Yeah. And going out with somebody who's got a fair bit of cash. Is she going against her morals for love? I wonder, was she always said, I'll never go out with somebody that was a big rich
It's not about having a moral
businessman.
code. It's about having a disdain for somebody who's different from you.
Mm.
And both of them have had that. Like we said, neither of them 20 years ago would have looked at each other twice because they're so different from each other. But with age and experience has come acceptance and perhaps a softening of their values to realise that there's more than one way to live your life.
Yeah.
And Bernie perhaps realises the importance of rules and living by them, and Dev's perhaps learn the importance of breaking a few. I don't know.
I wonder whether there's any scope in this brother Mike coming along and seeing what Bernie has become. And not that she's changed hugely, but would he accuse her of betraying her roots by taking up with somebody who owned 7 shops,
A class betrayer or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know whether there's any meat on the bones of that story.
I'm sure there is. I'm really sure there is. And I'm sure they could get a really great actor to come in and play Mike for a bit.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, they had Denny come back, didn't they? And I can't remember too much about what he thought about Bernie taking up with Dev, but...
It'd be really funny if Mike had made something of himself and he was a bigger dickhead than Dev had ever been.
Yeah.
And then Dev out-dicked him.
You interrupted me mid-quote earlier.
Please do continue.
Oh, we were talking about Bernie and Dev, and Jane last year said they shouldn't work on paper, but they just do. He gets her, and they make each other laugh. I think that's a really important part, actually, that Dev, as he has grown older, has become sillier.
Yes.
Or he's always had it in him, but he sometimes had to repress his silly side to do business and to be suave and to attract
Alan
the ladies.
Sugar's never made me laugh once.
But I think that Bernie accepts Dev for the silly guy that he is, and he doesn't have to put on that suave swish front for her. He can just be
Dev.
He can just be Dev. He can just Deb it up to the max, and she appreciates it. Yeah. She says it's funny because they're complete polar opposite. He's a big thinker, and she's incredibly impulsive, but it works. I guess so.
Yeah.
Is Dev a big thinker?
He's got to be. He's strategic.
Yeah. 2022. Is this me? Am I 2022?
Yes, you are, darling.
So the beginning of this year started with another big Winter Brown story, which was Joseph's disappearance. And this really was a stage in Coronation Street fandom where people were saying, enough with the Winter Browns. We've had enough of them. I'm fed up. But I think more of that was directed towards Gemma and Chesney in the quads. And, when it was announced that Gemma was going to give birth to 4 kids, people were like, oh, that's the worst idea that Corrie's ever done. But Bernie was still kind of involved at it at the time. Joseph disappears off because he felt betrayed by Chesney, who told the school that he was being bullied. This is when he was going to Weatherfield High. And then he disappears off. They put a big reward for Joseph's safe return. And a guy called Clint Stubbins sees Joseph wandering the streets because he hides in Hope's attic, I think, doesn't he? And this Clint guy gets him and says, "Oh, I'm gonna deliver you back home to get the reward money." But Hope demands, ever the enterprising girl that she is, that Clint give her and Joseph £100 of the reward money himself, which Bernie then finds out about. And rather than reporting Clint, because I can't remember I don't remember why what he was doing was wrong, but it was definitely wrong because it wasn't like.
Huh?
Well, Clint. I can't remember why he didn't have a rightful claim to this reward money when he did find them. I suppose it was because they were just out wandering the streets, and Joseph wasn't actually. I don't remember. But anyway, Bernie accepts half of the reward money to help Gemma and Chesney with their bills. So this money that was being paid for by, again, I can't remember, probably Granny Linda at this point, I don't know.
Well, it was a bunch of donations.
Oh, yes, it was donations, wasn't it? Yeah, because because Yasmin gives a load of money to that, which she got by nefarious means from that dude, Hashir, who died in her lounge. £3,000 of it came from Dev, but yeah, Bernie, ever the Chancellor, decides to take some of it herself. That's right, that's what happens. But then when it is discovered that Joseph was hiding out in Fiz's attic all along. Hope claims that Bernie organised the whole disappearance. She's arrested. Dev finishes with her, utterly disgusted that she could apparently exploit a missing child for money. But when Joseph tells the truth and says, no, nobody kidnapped me, I was upstairs all along, Bernie didn't have anything to do with it, she's cleared. But she still does, rightly so, face criticism for keeping half of the appeal fund. And I think that was probably a bit of a low point for Bernie, wouldn't you say? Taking appeal money. I know it was to help Gemma and Chesney with their bills, but I don't think that's where her money should have come from.
Well, yeah, this is what I said about Bernie taking opportunities that maybe have a bit of a grey aura.
Yeah, they do a little bit, don't they? So Gemma says, right, you can keep on living with us, Mum. Blood, thicker and water, etc. Chesney doesn't want her living there, but Gemma's decision is final. Bernie and Dev still are not an item at this point, because Bernie doesn't like the idea that Dev thought the worst of her about this charity money, although the worst of her was true, maybe? I don't know. So things are not looking great there. The second half of the year is when the Fern story came along. What are your memories and thoughts on this peculiar storyline?
I like how meta it is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was... Do you think they look similar? I don't think they look so similar that I would make a story out of it.
It's really hard because I can see them next to each other and I can see that they don't look similar, but they don't look exactly the same. But I can see that there's definitely a very clear resemblance there.
It's not like Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley, where they literally swapped roles during a movie and nobody noticed.
No, but I think it was really clever. So basically, this all came from the fact that Jane Hazlegrove and Gabrielle Glaister were often confused, in their day-to-day lives, weren't they?
Yeah, and that definitely happened because Jane Hazlegrove's spoken about the fact that people would say to her about roles that she'd never taken and confuse her.
She'd say, tell us about when you worked on Brookside, or tell us about when you were in Blackadder. So they came up with this kooky little story where Bernie would have a doppelgänger, and it's totally soapy, but in many ways, if you look at what Corrie's like these days, it's really, really un-Corrie. Because it was a, 2-3 month story maybe?
It's a bit of a caper.
And it was a caper of a story, which Corrie doesn't do these days. There were no issues going on here. It wasn't about an affair or a murder or any of these, well-trodden paths that soap stories often go down, and, maybe one's a little bit different to another.
It wasn't like, if Corrie did it now, it would be a man would pay them both to pretend to be twins.
But this was
during a kinky sex session that goes wrong because he saw something on the internet.
But this was only a few years ago. I think this is one of Corrie's last kind of caperish storylines. And it was the sort of thing that was sometimes might be a C or a D story for Coronation Street, but during the time that it was on, it was like really, really gripping. And it never would have happened had the actors themselves not said, hey, was it Jonathan Harvey, I think, that ended up taking it through?
Yeah.
What if we bring this actress in who looks like me and have a story where Bernie has a double? No way do I believe... Well, I can't say whether or not it would have been pitched at a meeting, because I don't know what sort of things get pitched in meetings. But I cannot believe that a storyline meeting would have taken place in Coronation Street. Somebody would have suggested it and somebody would have said, yeah, go on then, that's funny. I wonder who we can get to play her double. It would have got shot down, wouldn't it, for being too kind of fluffy. But it worked really, really well for me. And Gabrielle Glaister was a really charismatic actress, and she took on the role of this posh Fern. Brilliant. It was like a Princess and the Pauper storyline, wasn't it?
Well, it reminds me of Christina in that it was a posho being scammy, and what's his face, Lewis Archer.
Yeah.
I just love posh scammers on Coronation Street.
I didn't realise, because Gabrielle Glaister, again, a funny link with her and Jane Hazlegrove, but she had played a regular-ish character on Coronation Street in the past, because she played Debs Brownlow, didn't she? Which was Natalie Horrocks' sister, I think.
Right.
So she'd been in the show for a bit, about 15 years previously. So again, in the same way as like you could bring back the actor, and then people say, oh, that doesn't work because I remember her playing so and so. But I think Debs was such a minor character. I think she ended up going off with Natalie's boyfriend Vinny.
Right. Tell me the story of Fern and Bernie.
Right. So Bernie one day bumps into this woman Fern, who looks almost exactly like her. And I think that part of the story was nobody believed that Fern existed, did they? Like, yes, Bernie was saying, this woman scammed me or something, or she came around the house. Yeah. And there was like an imaginary friend aspect of the story, which is hilarious.
It was. I mean, if it was in Corrie now, she'd have schizophrenia.
No, Gemma, you're kind of acting like 2022 Coronation Street was another world, but this was still right in the middle of Ian McLeod's reign, which people weren't particularly happy with at the time. I think they've just jumped the shark,
you know.
Just recently with the Betsy storyline. You still don't want to go there right at this moment. Anyway, Fern, who's this posho, says to Bernie, look, I'm going to give you £200 to pretend you're me on a speed awareness course. Now, Bernie's just been sacked by Dev as his cleaner because she broke one of Artie's golf trophies when she was cleaning there. And she's like, great, this is a good way for me to get a bit of cash. So she agrees. And she quite enjoys having a doppelganger for the time being, does Bernie. But eventually, Fern, and again, just so funny that her name was, that she was given the name that's similar to Bernie. Fern ends up stealing Bernie's identity and clothes, and then gets a cleaning job at a jewellery shop in Bernie's name in order that she can rob the place. Obviously, what happens next? Bernie's arrested. Most of the family are saying, "What? No, that was you, Bernie. There's no such person as Fern. You're making her up. You've invented her to cover your crime." But Dev, bless him, is the only person who believes her and says, "Look, Bernie, you come and stay with me at number 7. Come on, you're being hounded by these people, these unbelievers." So Bernie ends up tracking down Fern's former husband, Howard, who helps lure out Fern by pretending to have won the lottery. And there's this massive sting operation, but Fern eventually gets accosted by the police, doesn't she? It was just fun little adventure story, and I very much appreciated it for the time being. And I would say this was probably, actually, if I was to put a date on when did I really start really liking Bernie.
Oh, okay.
I think this was it, because I enjoyed this story so much. And she was being taken advantage of, she was being wronged, she was being accused of something that she didn't do, but there was nothing particularly dark about it. There wasn't anything where I was going, "Oh, Bernie, what'd you do that for, you pillock? No, you've shown yourself up again." It was just a fun little adventure, and for me, this was a real turning point for her. I'd really like Fern to come back one day, but I don't know whether did she end up going to prison? I don't remember.
Didn't Gabrielle Geister also narrate some of the Coronation Street novels by Maggie Sullivan?
Possibly. I think she's narrated something. I can't remember. She's got
narrated something.
Corrie links there somewhere, hasn't she? But anyway, lots of fun. Jane at the time, not on this story particularly, was talking about how Bernie had matured, saying that she's a better mum now than she ever was. This has been a second chance for her with the kids and the grandkids. She's like a lioness when it comes to the family, and that wasn't always the case. She's more likeable now, and some of my favourite scenes are when she's behind the counter at Roy's and she thinks she's coming out with pearls of wisdom when she's actually talking nonsense. So everything was going good for Bernie at this point. Until 2023. When actually, 2023, I would say, solidified that love that I had of Bernie. She was an alright character until the Fern storyline. I really enjoyed the silliness of it. But 2023, Paul's MND...
It's the making of her.
It was,
she had to step up.
Sadly, the imminent demise of her child was the making of her. And this was actually her biggest year so far on the programme. She was 15th in terms of appearances. She made 119 episodes in 2023. And it felt like this was the time when they really wanted to invest in Bernie and, put her to the forefront of the show.
Yeah, this was the year when Dev tries to get Bernie to get into golf, and it turns out she's way better at it than he is.
That was a bit of a...
And she has to kind of pretend to be crap at it and not become...
I think they managed to string all of, 2 episodes out of that strange story idea.
She plays badly during a trial for a women's golf scholarship to make Dev feel better about himself. But then Linda comes into the show, who is
Again.
Joseph's wealthy grandmother, who is financing everything, and she feels really bad that Linda's looking down on the Winter-Browns, and obviously she feels responsible for kind of the financial situation her child is in. And Gemma and Chesney get married, and she has a food fight with Linda at the hotel. And this is when also Paul nearly misses the wedding because he falls out with Gemma, but he arrives just in time to walk her down the aisle. And then there's that really powerful scene with the three of them privately, Gemma, Bernie and Paul, where Paul tells them that he's got MND and he's terminally ill. And that was just incredible, that scene. Those three actors were so good together. And Bernie's like, well, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. But she doesn't really step up the way that he wants her to. So she kind
steps
of
up in a very Bernie way of not necessarily doing what most people would consider the right thing. But she was desperate, wasn't she?
She helps him get his personal independence payment, which is the PIP, and she launches a charity collection. She didn't ask him first, and he just feels helpless and,
Yeah, she just does things in what kind of retrospectively look like they were done in a bit of a cack-handed way.
Well,
but
she does what
she
she
had her
knows.
heart in it.
Yeah. So he eventually has to come to terms with the fact that the way she's helping is just a desperate attempt to take control of the situation and cope with the diagnosis. And she also, this is when she gets into her crystals and she starts thinking they're going to heal him.
Well, she was into crystals for a long time.
She turns to them in her moment of need, and Billy and she clash over the fact that perhaps they're not that useful, but also perhaps the Bible's not that useful if you're not that bothered about it. So
I think they were really quite respectful about Bernie's alternative belief system. They didn't try and rubbish it, did they? And make her out to be, naive for believing in crystals. I think they even though, I don't think many of the viewers were going, yeah, no, crystals.
But this is a really good example of Bernie being anti-establishment versus Billy, who is clearly the establishment, aka the
organised religion,
the Church of England, saying this is all nonsense and rubbish, and she's holding on to her beliefs and feeling like they are doing some good.
Yeah.
And she also thinks that there's some kind of... She gets on Dev's nerves because she moves photographs of Sunita around number 7 because she thinks Sunita's spirit wants to watch them.
It was actually a little bit sad, wasn't it? Because she was just like... She knew that Paul's demise was imminent. There was nothing she could do about it, and she was just desperately trying to turn to anything to try and comfort herself and those around her, when she knew that there was no kind of escaping what would eventually happen to him.
So clinging on to the idea that Sunita exists in the beyond is a way of thinking that Paul will as well when his time comes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dev kind of has to acknowledge that this is a coping mechanism. Then she discovers Shelley, who is Paul's friend from the MND support group, has got also a rather tenuous grasp on what rules you need to follow and what you don't.
Because they were kind of quite similar in that way, weren't
they? Really were, because they kind of like, why should you be loyal to anything beyond your...
Yeah, for Shelley, it was a case of, I'm going to be dead in 6 months. Why not just do what I want?
Yeah, well, she doesn't have any... She had a brother that she didn't like, and that was it. She didn't have a support system, apart from a carer.
Yeah.
And so she was buying laptops on credit and selling them, knowing that when the bill was due to be paid, she would be dead.
Yeah.
And Bernie
that
joins
really
in.
appealed to Bernie.
Bernie's like, brilliant.
Her sense of scammery.
Yeah, so she joins in and starts handling the laptop sales for Shelley and launders them through Big Garth, who's the guy who was the market
Love
trader.
Big Garth.
I know.
I was really happy that they brought him back, because Big Garth had been a character like 5-6 years previously to this, hadn't he? And I never thought I'd see him again. But they brought him back just for this.
I like that. She takes a cut of the money and she uses it to help Paul to get a stair lift and things like that. When Paul and Billy get married, she helps Paul walk down the aisle, her and Gemma. And then eventually the police find out what Bernie's up to, and she gets charged with handling stolen goods and misses Paul's last Christmas, and ends up with three months in prison, and has a Christmas Day video call with the family to make everybody feel sad.
I think that, sadly, as much as it was definitely in Bernie's character, that's part of the MND story that lots of people look on with, less...
I didn't like that
rose-tinted glasses. That's not the right word, but people didn't enjoy that part of the story.
It felt like an unnecessarily... Well, we said it all the time.
Things were tragic enough already.
Yeah, it could have just been a story about Paul's MND without needing this.
And having, it didn't really result in much, did it? Bernie was away for a month, 2 months, and then she came back, and it just added an extra layer of tragedy to Christmas that it was already tragic enough.
You wouldn't know that she had ever been in prison for that, really, now.
No. And it did make Bernie look a little bit selfish, in that, didn't you think that this could happen? I think that's what some of the characters were saying to her as well. Like, you have literally, your stupid actions, you're trying to make a fast buck for whatever the cause. You took a huge risk there, and now you denied your son his last Christmas with you. So things were not looking good for Bernie then, were they?
No, that's the thing. She stumbles from kind of like misadventure sometimes. Misadventure.
Yeah. A couple of more quotes from this period. Jane said, I think Bernie has grown considerably over the years. Learning that Kel had abused Paul was the turning point for her realisation that life isn't all giggles. Like every single person, she's very complex and will remain a work in progress, but anything's possible with Bernadine.
Can I just say, the way you said it made it sound like you were saying every single person, but it's every single person.
Oh, okay.
Not every person who's not in a relationship.
I've absolutely made sure, said Jane, that she's fun to play. I love that she's always in the moment and responds to things without any emotional filter. She says what she thinks, and boy, have the writers given me some brilliant lines to play.
That's great.
In the tradition of all those strong Corrie women that have gone before, it's the tension between strength and weakness that makes Bernie so brilliant, certainly to play and hopefully to watch. It's essential for Corrie to keep creating these characters because, as far as I'm concerned, all women are powerful and iconic, so it's great to continue to represent that. We're following some absolutely brilliant characters and performances, which is an honour and a privilege to do so. So she's kind of putting the character of Bernie in the same kind of ballpark as some of the other Corrie legendary greats, isn't she?
No, she's putting all women. All women are queens.
How do you think that
Sorry then.
How would you say at this stage that she's stacking up to some of the Corrie legendary females?
It's difficult because I think that anyone in the modern era it's like weighted against you because you've got all this noise of social media.
People saying Corrie's not so good anymore.
Corrie
actually not being so good anymore in many cases.
I genuinely think that some of the Corrie icons of the past wouldn't have stood up to the scrutiny that we have now.
But I think if you were to take some of the Corrie icons from the past and plonk them in 2026 Corrie, I don't think that they would be quite so beloved. There was just the perfect mix of soap excellence in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and if you were part of that, if you were a character there, then automatically iconic status came along with it.
It's also like you can make mistakes back in the day, and nobody just judged a whole character on it. And I'm saying that as somebody who does that with people on the show now, Anyway.
But I don't know. I think that it's hard to know still, even though she's been in the show for 7 years, whether the character of Bernie will be looked back as an icon of Coronation
Well, it's not just
Street.
to do... Okay, so it's not just to do with the fact that these characters judging them by what, you know, are they iconic or whatever, but the sheer weight of characters that exist in the entire show. Like, it's easy to be the most iconic landlady if you're the first one and you were in it for 20 years. That's not going to ever happen again.
No. I kind of put Bernie in the same sort of category as maybe Anna Windass, you know? Like, past the Corrie golden era, still very outspoken and bolshy.
Holding their own.
Yeah.
I really, really like Bernie. I think she's great. I'd miss her if she wasn't in the show. I think Jane Hazlegrove is fantastic, and I really enjoy her with Dev. I think that she's integrated really well. We're talking about it like it's the end of the thingy, but it's not.
How much has she kind of had a Bernie story versus being a side character in someone else's story?
There's been loads, you just said loads of them.
But no, I think a lot of the stories that she's had have been revolving around she's the mum of Gemma, or she's...
Okay, but let me point out to you, this is why I get annoyed when they conflate Best Actor and Best Actress in soap awards, because when you're a character on Coronation Street who has a child, your storylines revolve around the children characters. How are you supposed to get away from that?
Yeah.
Like, this is the way that life is. I can't give you a solution, but I can tell you that men and women in soaps have different roles, and stories are written completely differently depending on if you're a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And if you're a mum or you're not a mum. If you're not a mum, you spend your entire Coronation Street career pining for a child, it seems like.
Well, Bernie was pining for a child. Well, she wasn't pining for a child, sorry, but she got another one in 2024, didn't she?
No, she'd secretly been all along pining. We just never saw it.
This is the year that Kit showed up, and it was another big year for Bernie. She was 14th in the character appearance list for that year, 121 appearances. And it's a lot of the beginning of the year was tied up with Paul's inevitable shuffle towards death, which didn't happen until kind of the autumn, did it? But it really was the making of Bernie. She was just this, yeah. I think from this point onwards, she was just a great and tragic mum character to Paul, wasn't she? And we could see that her heart was breaking, but she was having to try and hold it together for the sake of the family. So, like, she finds out early in the year that Paul had been making plans to end his own life, and she has to kind of deal with that big revelation. She tries to do what's right for him and still sometimes screws up. Do you remember Moses, the PA?
Everyone thought he was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, he was going out with Todd very briefly, wasn't he? I thought
did
he
they
was
go
good.
out, or did they just have a drink?
I don't remember, but anyway, Bernie ended up reporting him for arriving late to look after Paul one day, and then gets him suspended. And it was just her just desperately trying to take some control of this situation, but ultimately doing the wrong thing again. There was just a kind of a flurry of faces appearing to Paul in his final months, wasn't there? You had, as well as Kit, who comes later, you had Denny returning on the scene, who it turns out is a total wrong and tries to sell Paul's electric wheelchair. He didn't make that much of a splash, particularly in my head anyway. But the big new character on the scene for 2024 was Kit. And maybe that was Bernie's story. But again, I remember thinking at the time, we don't necessarily need another wrinkle to Paul's death storyline and this new character. And, you know, do we really need Paul to discover he's got a brother in the months before he died?
Not really. We said this, didn't we, about should it have happened after?
Yeah. Because, like, really, they only got to know each other for the briefest of time as brother and brother, didn't they? But, yeah, Kit appears in Bernie's life again. She decides to start searching for him, because I think Denny makes a comment about him, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. And so she gets
a little tin. Her memory tin. Do you remember? She had that tin of...
Oh, yeah, she did it. Just like going. Debbie's memory tin.
She's like,
that we had this
and just
year.
like Jodie's tin of...
Yeah. That's obviously a soap
terror.
shorthand for something. So anyway,
that's soap shorthand for this character is more interesting than you realise.
They've got hidden depths. Kit doesn't want anything to do with Bernie at first, and in fact he's kind of purposely tries to make life difficult for her, like arresting her for being drunk and disorderly and impounding her car because its MOT is one day out of date. So she's gone to the trouble of finding this son, and it turns out that he's a bit of a bad lad himself, isn't he, is Kit?
He's just not interested.
No, and it's the only reason that she can confirm that he is her flesh and blood is when she happens to walk into the police station when he's celebrating his birthday one day. What are the chances of that, eh? And then she's
like, that's a coincidence because I had a baby this exact date.
So without consulting Bernie, Kit announces identity to Paul and Gemma, and the twins are furious when they realise that Bernie's had this extra son. There's been a brother all their lives that they didn't know anything about, and Paul's like, I've got no time to get to know him. But Paul, with his magical dying hands, manages to reconcile the family as one of his final wishes. And Kit eventually kind of softens towards them. Particularly, do you remember this scene when Paul was struggling to breathe one day and we see Bernie being very calm and obviously terrified? The whole of this story for Bernie, again, this is why it was so good for her in character building, trying to keep it all together when her kid was dying. But yeah, she's able to resuscitate, I don't know if that's the right word, Paul, when he's having a breathing problem, and that
Kit sees
impresses
the love
Kit
that she has.
Yeah, and that's I would still say that in the 2 years that we've had Kit on the programme now, it's very easy to forget that he's Bernie's son, don't you think?
Oh yeah. I mean, Brody and Kit and Bernie is like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's odd. Like, you get that with some characters like Maria and Kirk. Are they brother and sister? Oh yeah, well we know that really, but sometimes the show likes to remind us. But yeah, I just don't feel that Corrie has done as much as they could to integrate them together. Not that, if this long lost son comes into the mum's life, it doesn't necessarily mean they need to be in each other's pockets all the time. But you'd think that they would do more. Kit is much more tied to the police station, to Lisa, to Sarah, than he is his actual flesh and blood family.
No, well, he has had some. See, the thing is, the Winter-Browns haven't had any stories, and
not
Bernie's mostly
really
had stories with her and Dev rather than her and Chesney and Gemma. So Kit being involved in that, he's not getting any mileage out of that. It's all to do with. Yeah, like Becky and Lisa and Carla and Sarah.
Yeah. It is quite funny that Kit is obviously a dodgy copper and he's willing to bend the rules for his own personal gain. And it makes me wonder what Bernie would think if she realised, because she's like that as well, isn't she?
She'd probably be really proud of him.
I don't know whether she would be able to say that, but
she would be.
He is a bit of a chip off the old block in that sense.
They're both anti-established. Like, they both the rules are a suggestion.
I think that I don't know whether Kit's ever been in a situation where Bernie's had to cover for him, but I get the impression that she definitely would, particularly because she strove so hard to get Kit to accept her into his life. They've not had the best relationship since then, and I think Bernie would take any chance to try and bring him a bit closer because of the massive guilt she feels about what happened. But anyway, Paul dies. Bernie's there by his side. Brilliantly acted scene by all three there. There was, again, a little bit of a, oh, why would you do that, Bernie moment when she lies to Billy about Paul being alive when he phoned up. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, it's just going to cause more drama when Billy finds out. And I was surprised that he found out so quickly, but I think he ends up forgiving and understanding.
He speaks to Billy he speaks to Paul on the phone and thinks that he's speaking to him when he's alive, but he's not.
Yeah. Well, even Jane Hazlegrove was a bit taken aback when she found out that she had to film that scene. I've got a quote from her saying, Bernie did it for the right reasons. When I read it, I was a bit like, what's that about? I was a bit concerned that we were going to go back to everyone saying, what the hell is she playing at? But I think it was completely in the moment and it was about protecting Billy and Paul. And I wonder how many people in that same situation as Bernie would do the same thing. The
most important thing is to never let the other person know.
Yeah.
Which is where they fall down in soaps.
Yeah, you can't keep the secret for too long in a soap.
You have to commit to the bit.
Mm-hmm. So poor old, full of grief Bernie just kind of ends up going off the rails, doesn't she, after Paul dies, and organises a rave funeral. We always said that Paul was never really seen to be into raving, did he? It felt like a bit of a, I don't know whether selfish is the right move for Bernie, but a way of her coming to terms with Paul's death herself, was organising something for herself. I can see how people might think it was a bit of a selfish move.
It was, yeah, but I believe that funerals are for the living.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you're going to go down that route, then
it's all very well saying throw me in the bin or I don't want to fuss, but really it's not about what you want. It's about how the people you leave behind who love you are going to mark your passing. And it made complete sense that Bernie wanted to mark his death with a celebration and an affirmation of joy and celebration, and Billy wanted to do it in a traditional, commending his soul to God kind of a way.
Yeah. But blasting him off into space, that was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Is it how we'll all go? I don't know. I can't see into the future.
I still think that was not a great move from Bernie. I think, have a party, but Paul was not the sort of person. I don't believe he would have ever said, I want to be scattered across the stratosphere. And I think what happens to your remains after you die really should be
up to you.
Up to you, or really agreed that, yes, this is what that person would have wanted. And I think that I would say that Bernie overstepped the boundaries a little bit there by making it a bit all about herself. And no wonder Billy was annoyed about it.
Coronation Street characters are really great at not being explicit about their wishes for things like this, so that there could be drama after they die.
Anyway, but Paul is scattered into space, and eventually her and Billy finally accept that their different beliefs are both expressions of their love for Paul. And there was a really nice scene, actually. I think it was after the space scattering, when Billy and Bernie go outside and it's raining, and they're imagining that Paul's raining down on them, and Billy, who is obviously quite unshakable in his beliefs as well, did kind of appreciate what Bernie was trying to bring by doing that space scattering.
I think that if you're of Billy's faith, you can reconcile that the universe is all created by God.
Yeah.
And therefore, it doesn't really matter if you get blasted into space because you're...
I think, wasn't it Bernie, didn't she take half the ashes? Wasn't that another part of the fight? She gave Billy can do
and then some of them got stolen.
Yes, part of Paul got stolen because he only got recovered. Was it earlier this year?
I don't know.
I can't remember, actually. It might have been. But anyway, I thought that was I'm glad that they did end up being able to see eye to eye by the end of that year. And Bernie, I really did enjoy her relationship with Billy as well. She used to call him Bill, didn't she? And there was that bit of an age difference between Paul and Billy, and Billy wasn't, anywhere. He wasn't in the same generation of Bernie, but I think that she sometimes spoke to him. She spoke to Paul as her little baby boy sometimes, didn't she? And I think that she would often speak to Billy as a more
equal,
more kind of grown adult.
It's really difficult for parents who have children in adult relationships when the partner, how do you relate to them? Do you I want you to call me mum and dad like some in-laws do, or because I've had that sometimes with your mum and dad where they treat you more like a kid, and my parents never treated me like a kid, really.
Right.
So I kind of expect to be treated like an adult, but that didn't always happen.
No, not necessarily with my parents.
We're 40 now, so it's a bit different.
Still feel like a kid whenever I go around and visit my dad's house.
I really think that you will never stop thinking of your children as kids. But what do you think of the partners? This is an interesting question to anyone listening who is a parent who has adult children. How do you feel about your beloved daughter or son-in-law?
Sometimes when we're with your parents, they'll still refer to me and you as the kids, don't they?
Yeah, I know, but I call anyone who's like 30 and below a kid.
It was just interesting after Paul's death, seeing this relationship between Bernie and Billy continue, and she kind of felt like she needed to be there to look after him in a sort of maternal role.
Yeah.
It was sweet. It was sweet.
Do you think she killed Theo?
No, I don't think so. Right, 2025, Gemma. We're getting close to modern times now. Again, another big year for Bernie. I mean, it's been almost that Bernie's not really had much in the way of downtime for a good 4 years now, has she?
I know. She's been great.
You don't get many characters like that. I was thinking that the story that they had at the beginning of this year with Mel was going to be another big one, but it felt like they were happy to let that fizzle out after a month or two. And I'm not surprised if Jane Hazlegrove does need a bit of a break at the moment. But equally, I'm not surprised if Corrie wants to use her as much as possible.
Yeah, she's been a solid presence, hasn't she?
I mean, in a period where Corrie can so quickly lean to its younger and, may I say, sometimes more expendable cast to fill its episodes up, cheaper cast, I guess. Bernie's been one of these people who are always saying, you know, we don't get enough Sally, we didn't get enough Jenny in our final years. People in this sort of age bracket that used to be the bread and butter of Coronation Street are used so little now, and Bernie stands out as a bit of an anomaly there in modern times, which is I very much appreciate, actually.
Love Bernie. So 2025, she was 14th, like you said, 122 episodes. And she and Dev clash because Joseph makes a hoax 999 call.
Oh.
Is this with hope?
This was when Mason died.
This was delayed the ambulance to get to Mason, and Asha was part of the ambulance crew, and so she influenced Dev into struggling to forgive Joseph for what he's done. And Bernie's like, you know, what I said about my family is more important than the wider group, so that's how she reacts to it.
Yeah, so they have another fallout,
but they reconcile, and Dev proposes to Bernie for the second time, and she accepts.
Yeah, we didn't mention the first one, did we? I think the first one was the balloon animal proposal from the previous year. Was that at the quad's birthday?
Yeah,
and
that would have been in summer then.
No,
they were born in August.
No, they were
October.
They
were born in October.
Yeah,
right.
Dev was just this silly little magic man, wasn't he? He was like, "Hey, I've got something for the beautiful lady."
This is why I say that he is our version of Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, he totally is. He so is. But anyway, they're now engaged. Hurrah.
They're now engaged, and it's going to be the wedding of the century.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie gets Kit to admit that when he was a teenager, he and Mick McCarlis set fire to the corner shop, and this burned the shopkeeper's wife quite badly. Yeah, this was the pointless flashback episode. And Mick gets caught and sent to a secure training centre. Kit escapes punishment and keeps quiet, and it's a bit like The Prince and the Pauper, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they kind of start off at the same point, but because of their family, one of them gets in trouble, and it affects the course of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you can't keep her wronging down, and Kit carries on that torch of being a bit dodgy the rest of his life. Then sad times because Craig gets killed by Mick during this drink.
It's sad times.
This driving incident. And then Mick, you would probably forget this even happened, because nothing seems to have lasting ripples on the street. But this was really impressive and quite dramatic. Mick abducts Bernie, takes her to the roof of some beautiful Manchester location, and threatens her.
Yeah.
And Kit has to come. And they have this kind of like face-off, don't they?
Yeah, that's totally forgettable, isn't it? As one of Corrie's few
so
location
dramatic.
shoot scenes from 2025, it kind of feels a bit throwaway.
We went there, didn't we, to go and see where it was filmed and everything.
Yeah.
And it was all characters that were really interesting. And anyway, it turns out that Bernie helps Kit overpower Mick, and
escapes, and it's all fine.
They escape and it's fine. And then she learns that actually Mick's son Brody might actually have been Kit's child, because Mick might have not been around when
Brody was conceived.
And good
So
job.
yet another family member for Bernie.
Mick can't do maths. I say, as a woman, and women should listen to me here, the less men know about our biology, the more we can trick them. No, that's obviously a joke.
I've not really... I still haven't grown to love Brody particularly. I think he's been underused, but I've not been particularly bothered about him being underused because he was a bit of a wrong un to begin with.
Yeah.
And then having him kind of shoehorn his way into this ever-expanding family of the Winter Brown clan, to me, he just doesn't quite belong yet. And there's been a few scenes over the past year where Bernie's had to be a grandma to him. But I just don't see them. I don't get their relationship. I don't feel it. I don't believe it.
Well, I really rate him taking Dylan to task this week.
I bet.
And when we listen back to this in 5 years' time, we'd be like, what happened with Dylan? I can't remember. So, Brody is possibly her grandson.
Definitely.
Yes. So, Kit arrests Brody for vandalising his flat, and Bernie provides him with a false alibi. And then Brody has an epileptic seizure, and Bernie steals hair from his hat.
Oh, yeah.
So that Kit can DNA test him, and then they confirm with that test that he is in fact Kit's son.
Yeah.
And Bernie immediately blurts this out to Brody, who does not like this, gets drunk, and she has to kind of like grab him and get him back to the number 7 and pressures Ardy into letting him stay there. Brody gets rejected by both Mick and Kit, so his father he always knew and the father who is his DNA donor, and Bernie then becomes his main supporter, and they start to form this bond. Because I think that Bernie kind of sees quite a lot of herself in him, isn't that? He's a bit of a renegade, and because he's on the wrong side of the law, and
I can't really work out what they want to do with Brody, because half the time I think they're happy to have him on the wrong side of the law. Then half the time he's kind of a bit of a goody two shoes, and
he's like Robin Hood.
Maybe it's under Sally's influence or something. I don't know, but
I
don't get what they're trying to do with Brody.
But can you not see the parallel between Bernie and Brody? And the thing is that their expressions of criminality are based on their gender, in that Bernie is being manipulative and fraudulent, whereas Brody is more violent and...
But he isn't that much, is he?
Yes, he is. He beat that guy up the other day.
That was mostly...
He's a heavy.
He was a heavy, but he wasn't doing that much beating up. I think it was mostly Idris. I don't know.
But can you see that you get used in a different way depending
of course.
on your gender and your sex society?
I'm still at a stage where I wouldn't actually be bothered if Brody were to disappear in a puff of smoke and Bernie were to never mention
He's done
him
a
again.
lot of good to me by standing up to Dylan.
Yeah, has that been the making of him this past week?
I am not a Dylan fan, and so anybody who takes him to task is on my...
They're all right in your books.
Yeah, I think so. So, poor old Brody. Meanwhile, Dev's gone to India, and Bernie's learned that Ardy's in trouble. He ordered too many brandies, and so he's in the
heaps of debt.
His pivot tables aren't pivoting correctly. I don't know what they are, but it's not good, is it, for Ardy? So he's arranged a staged robbery, and he's going to use the guy. Yeah, Brody's the fall guy. Well, kind of, and he's going to use the insurance money to cover up the fact that he's really messed up with his Excel spreadsheets. She's absolutely furious to discover that Brody's the one who's been put into this, but she agrees to keep quiet about it. But then the insurance refuses to pay out, and Bernie has to take £6,000 out of this wedding fund that has been created for her and Dev by the evil aunt. And then she goes around and starts undercutting everything for the wedding to try to save the money. And
that was kind of fun.
I thought that was quite... I really would have liked to see more of the spreadsheet for that.
Would you really?
Yes, I would have done. I think it would have been really funny. It could have been... I think this could have been a really great hour and a half like Netflix movie about my spreadsheet wedding. So she almost gets away with it, but it doesn't quite work. She says to Dev, let's get married in 2 weeks. But then Auntie Rani comes and she offers them £25,000 to get married, but she doesn't like Bernie at all.
No, she thinks that Bernie is below the class that Dev should be marrying to.
And Bernie is very touched when Dev defends her and doesn't accept the money, even though it's quite important that she has the money. And on the wedding day, Bernie catches Brody burgling number 7 to run away to Alicante with Joni and Shanice, because they're going to get separated out into foster care. And she... oh my God, what happens then?
She has an asthma attack. It all goes down on their wedding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I thought there was lots that I really, really enjoyed about the wedding. I loved the colour, I loved the costumes, but there were some odd storyline decisions made for that.
First of all, Debbie ruins it by proposing to Ronnie.
Oh yeah, she does, doesn't she?
And then Bernie turns up and says, "Hey, excuse me, bitch, this is my wedding, not yours." Then she has an asthma attack. Then they end up in the hospital, and they don't actually get a legal wedding.
No, but they do get it later, don't they?
This is why I'm very excited for the prospect of this not being a problem for future episodes of Coronation Street, purely on the basis of the fact that the Labour government has said that they're going to, overhaul
get married anywhere now, can't you?
We've got Andy Burnham. Maybe he's a bit of a stickler for tradition. I'm not sure. He'll go back on it, but I don't think so.
Nah, I don't reckon so.
So they exchange vows by the hospital bed, and then there's... Well, we'll get to that.
Did you enjoy the look of Bernie and Dev's wedding? It made a bit of a change, didn't it?
I love it. I love them.
The colourful, traditional Hindu-ish wedding. It was a kind of a mishmash, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because Bernie was there in a big kind of kaftan.
So one of the things that they want to change in this country about weddings, which I love, is that not only will weddings that aren't Christian, and I've forgotten what the other ones were, there's a very narrow range of religions that are allowed to get married as part of the ceremony. But they're going to make it so that Muslim weddings are legally binding, etc., etc. But also, you could have an atheist, I guess, or whatever Bernie calls herself, and a Hindu...
Free spirit.
...get married in the same ceremony. It used to be that if you had to pick a religion. So you could have a Christian ceremony where one of the participants weren't Christian, but you couldn't have a ceremony that melded Christianity and like Islam or Judaism and Hinduism. You couldn't have that combined. And so you'd have to compromise, and I think that's really sad.
Well, I think that what we saw with Dev's wedding was a bit of a compromise, especially if we look back to his wedding to Sunita, which was 100% pure Hindu, wasn't it? He came riding in on a horse, and then they went through all the traditional rituals or whatever, because Roy was narrating them. In this, it just felt like it was a colourful wedding at the bistro.
Absolutely. And it's not to say, in case it's not clear from what I've just said, that you couldn't get married if you were two different religions, but it was the case that you would have to have a civil ceremony, in which case there could be no religious commentary whatsoever. So you'd have to pick between a religious ceremony of a very narrow few, like Christianity or whatever, or a non-denominational secular.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have any mention whatsoever of any religion, no matter what religion it was. Never mind a blending of the two.
Yeah, I think that Dev has become a bit more of a secular character over the years. Not that he's ever been full on major Hindu, but I don't know whose idea it was to have him and Sunita have a very Hindu wedding. But I guess Sunita's family, because we knew that they were involved in. They were a bit more heavily Hindu, so maybe that was why Dev wanted to go down that route.
Even if you don't have a big faith in the religion that you were brought up with, it's still comforting.
Yeah. Like,
loads of people want to get married in the church, but they never step foot in it, apart from maybe every other Christmas.
Yeah, and the last time somebody got married there. But I think that Dev at this point wasn't particularly fussed about making it a Hindu wedding. He just wanted a wedding that encapsulated him and Bernie, and I think that they got a really good job with the look.
Yeah, but even people who are not Christian will get married in a civil ceremony at a hotel or a venue.
Yeah.
And wear a white dress, which isn't even a Christian thing, but it's become a traditional Christian church wedding.
Symbol of it,
yeah. It's not a Christian thing at all. It absolutely isn't. It was a Victorian thing brought in by Queen Victoria, wasn't it?
I don't know. I've got no idea. Anyway, lovely wedding. Shame that they had to fall out at the end of it, but they had a nice dance at the end, so it was all okay. Because doesn't Dev find out about this insurance scam during the wedding or something? No, Dev finds out about the insurance scam during the wedding, and they have this fallout, but it's all fine.
It turned out alright in the end.
She goes on the honeymoon on her own, doesn't she?
Yeah. Good best way to do it.
That was weird. I didn't get what was going on there. It definitely smacked of Jane Hazlegrove has booked her holiday at this point, and she's going on it no matter what. What happened when she came back, though?
Well, she tells him that the truth about the scam and the money, and they get mad at each other, but then they get married anyway at the register office. And then we have this woman who is, the one who was horrible to Asher. So she got drunk.
Oh, yeah, Bernie gets involved in this, doesn't she?
Yeah, Asher was a paramedic, and she had, what do you call them? Client? What they called? Patient?
Yeah.
She's belligerent, and she racially abuses her. She's completely drunk, and then she's called Naomi Giles. And
name and shame, Gemma, that's right.
Yeah.
Full name.
Yep. And she turns up at this careers fair, and so Bernie sabotages it by changing the presentation slides to read, "I am a massive racist."
Very Bernie.
And it doesn't go down very well, and Asher has to withdraw her police complaint in exchange for Naomi agreeing not to sue Bernie. And then it goes very downhill for Asher. She has a mental health crisis. She attempts to take her own life. And Bernie tries to kind of make it Naomi's problem by provoking her so she can have her arrested for attacking her. But it just brings more unwanted attention to Asher and leaves her feeling very, very humiliated. And she gets, she ends up in hospital, and Bernie and Dev have to kind of reconcile this. And she decides that maybe she should just become one of Debbie's dementia gal pals.
I've quite liked seeing Bernie becoming a bit of a mother figure to Asher. She sort of semi-adopted her as a mum, hasn't she? And she was trying to do the right thing there, maybe to show to Dev, look, I'm one of you now, and the same level of ferocious mama bearing that I do to my kids, I'm going to do to yours as well. And it went spectacularly wrong, like it sometimes does with her kids as well.
Bernie definitely seems like the sort of person who would feel really bad for Asher not having a mother figure and want to step in to be that for her.
Yeah.
And it's really... I can imagine it must be very frustrating for Gemma and Kit to see Bernie playing good mum when she had the chance previously and didn't really. Maybe we should not raise our own children and give them to our parents. Maybe we should just skip a generation. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it for 2025 really, and almost it for Bernie. I mean, this year
he's had a really big story this year.
Well, she was left devastated again after Billy died in the Corriedale crash, and she had to face up with, for the second time in a year and a half, losing. Billy wasn't a son to her, but he was kind of a son-like figure, wasn't he? She's just kind of adopting anybody and being a maternal figure to anyone. But like we said earlier, she took Billy on board, even though he was a bit older and she sometimes saw him as a bit more of an equal. I think she still had her eye out for him, and having to go through this same grief again in such a short period was heart-wrenching for her. But this ends up with her going off on this massive bender earlier this year in an episode that I very much enjoyed. Where she
Bernie's Day Out.
Bernie's Day Out, exactly. Night out. She ends up meeting up with Mal. He turns out to be a bit of a stalkery wronger.
No one could have predicted that.
No, could not, definitely. Anybody who saw Mal in his first episode and thought he seems like a nice bloke. Totally wrong. Totally wrong.
No one could be such a bad judge of character.
Anyway, so... I mean, what is there to say about Mal? Not much. I think the actor who played him was fantastic, but they didn't really give his character
was really good,
much more than a fair shake, did they?
They did great casting on him because he was in turns pathetic and scary and sinister and friendly and fun and cool and chill. He was whatever he needed to be. He could do it.
But he
really,
was only
really good.
it for a really short amount because he set fire to Roy's cafe and then off he went, wasn't he?
Did he? Did he set fire? I didn't see flames.
Well, apparently so. The rumours have it that there was some
I think he
fire
just
there.
saged the place.
Anyway, that was basically it. I mean, there was. I don't want to go too much into the Mal storyline because Corrie clearly didn't want to develop it too much. And like I said, I thought when I heard about it at first, it was going to be a big story for 2026, and it just kind of disappeared off. And actually, Bernie's been a bit more on the quiet side recently.
But this is Bernie's big story for 2026, and it's quite involved.
But it wasn't that big a story.
I think it was.
Well, he's just becomes increasingly obsessive over her, doesn't he? And it kind of gets mixed up with the whole Jodie story because doesn't Jodie cuts the picture of Bernie at the face out of Bernie's photograph.
And they think it was Mal.
They think it was Mal, exactly. And then Kit realises that Mal's a bit of a wrong and beats him up. Is that right? I think.
Yeah, Mal gets injured.
Yeah. And it's Kit that ends up doing it. So Bernie has to choose, like, do I dob my son in? So that was all a bit of drama, but it just comes to an end when he sets fire to the cafe. Really, I don't think there's much more to say.
Well, he
about
also
it, really.
says Dev attacked me, and it wasn't Dev.
Yeah,
and blackmails Bernie, and then she says to Kit that he wants me to sleep with him, or he's gonna. Oh, what? It was very complicated. There was a big scheme.
There was a scheme indeed. Right.
But he ends up leaving.
Yeah, he ends up leaving and we haven't seen a whole lot more of Bernie since. So I think that she's in a fairly solid place with Dev's relationship, and the fact that he has forgiven her for this shows that he's in it for the long haul, and it's not just, he's married her now, he's got a ring on her finger. He needs to show a little bit of maturity, but so does she. And I wonder, kind of going forward, how much more of this, classic Bernieism we'll see, where she plays things a bit too risky because she's got a marriage to risk now, which she didn't have before.
I mean, the latest thing that they've got up to is lying to Gemma and Chesney about the fact that Granny Linda's fronting the cash for Joseph's education, but it's actually Dev's taken out a loan, and this is going to blow up in their faces, obviously. And it must be very difficult as well to see your kids and your grandkids struggle because you're in a relationship with a man who's got very privileged, and his children are also incredibly privileged.
Yeah.
So you'd think there would be a bit more clashing there, because although they can maybe, pay for Joseph for a few terms, they can't pay for everybody's education. And I think also, if I'm Bernie, I'd think that private schooling is against almost every moral that I have.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I
mean, poor Joseph is in a very difficult situation, but most of his argument seems to be that he doesn't have any friends in the new school and everyone will make fun of him. But that's really not a good reason to pay. What would it be? 60? What's it? 28? What's it?
What are you working out? 4 times
8.
4 times 8 is 32.
No, it's 3 times 8, isn't it? Is it 3 terms a year or 4 terms?
3 times a year. 3 times 8 is 24.
So that would be. Well, that would be what, £48,000. No, I'm gonna say I'm fairly sure, considering they've got kids, and I don't think either that Gemma definitely doesn't work full time. That's more than Gemma earns in a year.
Oh yeah, must be easily.
Right, shall we leave it there? Because I think we're probably going to be doing a bit of a resident review of number 7 coming up soonish on the podcast anyway, which may retread some of the old ground, and some of the discussion about what next for Bernie and all that may well come there. But I kind of leave this character profile in thinking Bernie's in a pretty good place for me. I enjoy her a lot more than I did at the beginning. I never really disliked her, but it took some of the more somber and loving moments, especially during Paul's story, to really make me get her. I still think that the Fern story with the comedy is a bit of a highlight, and I think maybe leaning into that side of her rather than the scammy side might be better off, but hey, I don't know.
I love Bernie. I think she's great, and it's down to Jane Hazlegrove and the writing. It's a really complicated character.
She definitely feels like she could be in it for the long haul,
She
couldn't
feels
she?
properly unique and really iconic and a proper Corrie character who is an eccentric. I love eccentric characters who forge their own paths, and there hasn't been anyone like her as a permanent character. There've been the odd, the oddball who, I don't know. I just love how complicated she is. I think she's great, and
they've got something
she's
special
really
and unique there.
She's a really cohesive character. Like everything she does feels correct. Like
as much as it might frustrate you, and
yes.
I do get frustrated by Bernie when she does stupid things, but I can't say, well, that's out of character, because there's very little that she's done where I would say, no, Bernie wouldn't do that.
One of the, I think, advantages of being one of these more kooky side characters is that you're consistent. Like some of the big characters have to bow with the, they have to go with the wind. They have to kind of change their personalities or their relationships and stuff to fit in with the story. But people like Bernie and Dev and, other characters like that, they're not quite comedic. They're not like caricatures like Mary and Kirk.
No.
But they're not like kind of blank slates like some of the other big names.
Yeah, just to be an issues magnet.
Yeah, they are unique and they're really well observed and played beautifully by the actors. And that's one of the reasons I love Bernie.
Well, I think, again, I don't want to look too far into the future here, but I'm imagining that over the next 12 months, what we'll end up seeing is a lot more of her and Debbie's storyline, and some of that heart that she brought to Paul's final 12, 18 months or so, we're going to see again. And it's going to be difficult for Bernie, because it was hard enough for her after Billy died, and now to see one of her mates kind of potentially wasting away is going to be really, really tough. But I think that she's the sort of character, like Debbie, like Glenda, all of those women in there are going to bring some lightness to this horrible, horrible story as well.
I would be surprised, though, if she was a major part of Debbie's demise.
I don't know whether she'll be a major part, but the fact that she's one of the gang and they're on the periphery is going to offer us something to look forward to, I'm sure, and some moments of lightness in the dark, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Coronation Street is you have to remember when something terrible happens, at least it's a storyline that you can be part of.
Yeah, exactly.
Look on the bright side.
Let's leave it there, shall we? Thank you, everybody, for listening. Almost 2.5 hours on just Bernie. It's a good job I did realise that she'd been in it 7 years, and because I could have left it for years more before we actually got around to profiling.
What would we do if we were doing this in 10 years' time?
I don't know, somehow we've managed some characters that were in the show 40 years and we were able to condense it into a half-an-hour character profile in the early days of the podcast, but maybe we didn't witter on quite so much then, I don't know.
It's because we didn't have opinions.
No. Right, thank you everybody for listening. We're going to be back with our main episode a little bit earlier this week, and we're going to have to actually record on Thursday, aren't we?
Yes.
So look out for that then. We can't do Friday this week, but we can't do it any later than that either, so we'll be giving you our thoughts in the next chapter of Dylan's strangulation storyline on Thursday evening, so we will see you then. Goodbye everybody.
Bye.
Ta-ra.